So it's 8:15. I'd like to call the Whatcom Public Utility District meeting to order. Thank you all for coming. Let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, well, let's move on to the agenda. Any modifications or changes to the agenda? I have one item.
Which is?
I'd like to add beginning the review process for we should do a performance review this year. And I'd like to, again, a second performance review before the end of the year. So I wanted to talk about that in executive session, performance review of the GM. Any issues with that? No.
Suppose we can add.
So maybe 5 or 10 minutes. It's just to get the ball rolling, so. Okay,
Sounds good.
so with that change, I can make the motion to amend, with the amendment to executive session, the second item for performance review of the GM. Under executive session, other than that, no changes. I'll make that motion.
Second.
As a motion and a second, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Sorry, was that a motion to approve the
Agenda as
agenda as
amended.
modified? Yeah.
And next is the consent agenda. Minutes of the special meeting of November 10th. And the claims of November 25th. Any changes or questions on those?
None for me.
I'll entertain a motion then.
To approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
There's a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Let's move on to public comment. Anybody online or in the room who would like to make a public comment? Okay, I see none. We will have a second public comment period. For you, Brian, so at the end of the meeting, at least so far. Okay, so let's move on to let's go to the public comment period and move on to general manager's report.
So 3 things. One, pretty straightforward. Normally, our second meeting in December, we do virtual only, and it's essentially a checks and vouchers meeting. And we don't need a resolution for that. I just need the head nods, and then when we notice, we'll notice it that way if you agree. So it usually makes the second meeting a very short meeting.
So we could be in Hawaii or something.
Yeah, virtual only, and it'll typically be just the checks and vouchers.
Okay,
Sounds good.
great. I have to book my ticket.
All right.
Yeah.
That was easy. Any questions?
That's it for general manager's report?
No. That's the
First, yeah, I assume
First of 3.
Are you gonna get off easy for me, Chris?
We love it.
Okay, so the second is one that I haven't done a lot of research on, but I think you guys have seen the letter from Liz Onerson or
Yeah.
Nicholas Garcia on wildfire.
A lot of letters.
We got
Yeah.
2.
Letters.
Yeah, and then a whole bunch of response.
Okay, yeah, that's right.
So the first thing is on wildfire, and the idea would just be to have a discussion around that. If there's consensus on our board, then I can communicate that back to PUD by writing a letter and signing on your behalf, or writing it for the 3 of you to sign, or however you want to do it. But again, this one's on wildfire, not the telecom issue. We'll talk about that next.
So let me just, I'll take a turn, make a comment on this, and then, you know, we can see, I think there's probably not a big deal here, but I just, for Whatcom, this wildfire issue impacts us in 2 ways. One is that we're a member of PERMS, Public Utility Risk Management. And it's our insurance, and obviously when there's wildfire risk, and wildfire claims, which there are, it affects our premiums. And then the other way is we're a member, and there may be others, but the other way I think of it is we're a member of PUD, and in general, we want to express solidarity with other PUDs. So those are the 2 ways I know. And so both of them encourage me to be deferential to other PUDs. I just want to share how I think of it. I'm open to looking at it differently. But I'd like to hear from the other commissioners on the subject.
I mean, I think those are good points. I also think there's increased risk in Whatcom County than there used to be. I was at gosh, maybe 3 years ago, Hillary Franz was giving do you remember this? She was talking to Wapuda and said that at the time there were more wildfires on the west side of the
Mhm.
mountains than the east side of the mountains. It's something to be aware of.
Mhm. Yeah, it's one of those things where it does impact us, not so much directly as if we, owned lines in the Cascades where the fires are happening, but it does.
Or
Yeah.
even if we were in Sudden Valley, where it's possible.
Yeah,
Sorry to scare people who live in Sudden Valley.
I saw that and I think they were just asking for just a yes or no from us,
Mhm.
basically on the letter and. Were you hoping for us to take action like during your report here or to come back to it later in the agendas?
No, just to
Is that
take
about-
action now.
Just take action now?
Yeah, it's just part of the GM report.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if I thought we might get to it during commissioner reports and Bud, you brought it up. I just wanted to look at just exactly what we were approving before,
Can I make two comments on this?
Yeah.
So first of all, if you look at our configuration today, our risk is extraordinarily low. Even on the west side, where you typically have these fires has been, think Monroe and East.
Mhm.
So it's not down here, that's not where we're seeing the fires. The fires you see down on the flat here typically are grass fire, brush fires along I-5. There are people who toss out cigarettes or whatever, and that's where you end up with the fires. The other fires that we have down on the flat typically are structure fires, and the local fire department responds. So given our line configuration today, I view our risk as extraordinarily low, to the point where, well, we may as well insure against meteor strikes. It's that kind of thing. Much less than the odds of being struck by lightning, for instance, which I think is 1 in 7 million. I read someplace. I don't know if that's true. It's on the internet, it must be true, but it was really kind of remarkable that you're 100 times more likely to be struck by lightning than to win the lottery. That was the conclusion I had from it. It was like, okay.
1 in 7 million means one person in Washington State gets struck by lightning, right? So
Well, it's a couple hundred a year nationwide.
yeah, right.
Yeah,
That's,
and I was really surprised it was that frequent. I would have thought, it's like.
Well, back to wildfires.
Anyway, yeah, back to the risk, but the
So
related
the
perspective.
risk is very, very low today. If our configuration in the future should change, that risk profile would change with it. And I think that over time, we would become much more concerned. So those are the two comments that I would have. Otherwise, I'm Commissioner with you 100%. I'm deferential to the other PUDs. And they are in the middle of it today. And they spend a lot of time thinking about it and researching it, bouncing it off of PUDA. I just kind of push back because I think our current profile is quite low and it may change over time.
To what extent is the policy statement here? Is there any difference of opinion from investor-owned utilities and public utilities on this subject?
Well, certainly. When you think about a lot of investor-owned utilities, they have assets that they operate in different states. And their liability varies state by state. I'm thinking specifically Pacific Corp. And they really have different opinions from anything that I've encountered. The other thing is that many states are adopting California's inverse condemnation laws. And that basically says, even if you comply with all reasonable, you're not negligent in any way, shape, or form, you're still completely at fault and you own it. Just because you have facilities in the area of the fire.
So
I'm
no fault.
oversimplifying, please don't, I get it, I know I'm way, but just in general, that's how a layman thinks of the thing.
No fault liability,
No, all fault liability.
all fault liability.
Yeah, if you have facilities in vicinity of a fire, you're on the hook for the costs of the entire fire and anything that.
So let me be
anybody-
specific, does Puget Sound Energy have a position on this particular piece of legislation?
I think we'd have to ask Brian, I really don't know,
Okay,
and he might not either. be
May,
knowledgeable
might
or
not,
willing
know,
to
might not be
respond.
ready to speak about it today.
Give him the opportunity if he wishes to.
Yeah, I,
Brian, if you have anything to say about, PSE's position on wildfire risk?
thank you, Brian, please.
Well, good morning, Brian Henry, Treaty Sun Energy. You know, this will be, my understanding is this will be an issue that's going to be in front of the state legislature probably this upcoming session. And if it's okay with the commission, I'd like to maybe defer a little bit. And as I get more information, I'd be happy to come back with you. I'd like to convene with my colleagues and make sure I'm giving you correct information on this particular issue. So I'm a little reluctant to, I don't want to speak out of turn this morning, but I'd be happy to come back to you at a later date.
Sure, and the way you can do that is just send, if it's this year, me or Chris
Well,
an email and
yeah,
just let
Brian,
us know and we'll put you on the agenda.
Yeah, send it to me and that way, especially if you have a position that, is a formal position, you can forward it to me, I can forward it to our commissioners and make sure that they've got it as early as possible.
And absolutely put you on the agenda too, if that,
Yeah.
if that.
Okay.
Because the other is that, we are countywide agency. And we want to have a policy that supports even those people that are not technically our customers, right? Because they are a citizenry, we represent them, regardless. So I just want to bring up, so I am curious about what PSC has to say, but so particularly if it has a impact one way or another as far as the residents of Whatcom County.
Would you
Like-
like to draft a letter and let us see what you?
I could, yeah. On that one, I can't remember if they wanted the answer today or if that was the
Yeah.
FPC.
It was.
Oh, it was today.
Yeah.
Actually,
Was the
no,
FPC
December 1st for this
Okay.
one.
Okay,
Yeah,
so the
the other
FCC
one
was
was today, yeah.
Okay, well, that's good, because I actually haven't even read the letter behind the wildfire one. I was in the air when it came in. I haven't read it this morning. I did, and I know a lot about the FCC one.
So when is our next commission meeting?
December 9th.
So,
Yeah, we would-
we wouldn't get it at the commission meeting, so I guess what I'd like to, find out is if, how we get this, just meet the December 1st deadline.
So if I was to draft that, at this point, from what I've heard from you guys, I would be deferring to Wapuda in our response letter.
Yeah, and
And not really espousing our own position, because I think we're a little bit kind of ambiguous in,
Out of our lane.
yeah, it's out of our lane. That's a great way to put it.
yeah, so maybe that's the way to do it, is to refer to the Wapuda position on such as an NPD, and if Brian is able to get back to you by December 1st. Put a blurb in there about our local investor-owned utility has a different opinion on the subject, and
Or, well,
and contact X if, so,
So,
Brian's raising.
Brian,
yeah.
Apologies. I'm wondering if I'm not. Maybe I missed it in the packet, but I'm unclear what letter you're referencing, and that would probably help me find the answer.
Yeah,
For
Brian,
you, right?
I can forward it to you, but it's a letter from our trade group of PUDs, and to be fair, I haven't read it yet.
It's a comment on a draft bill to Representative Reeves. And yeah,
Just
just,
give that bill number to Brian.
I don't think it has a number.
Oh, I don't have
This
it.
is just for Wapuda to comment on a draft, and I think, following on the discussion that happened at the Wapuda meetings, they wanted some clarification on a position, and it was 2 points. It was, essentially it was yes to no. Yes or no, should Wapuda indicate an openness to third-party review and approval of COU wildfire mitigation plans under the following conditions? 1, approval by an outside party along with utility implementation of a plan would automatically prohibit both punitive and non-economic damage awards. And 2, participation in the fund and thereby an obligation for third-party review is strictly voluntary. So essentially, and then the bill overall, I think just concerns, funding for, we're asking for CCA funds to invest in wildfire mitigation and prevention measures for utilities such as undergrounding.
Expanding right of ways, so that,
Yeah.
there's, like, one thing that Phyllis talked about is they got taller trees. than, in Clallam. So like the setbacks that they use. Aren't applicable because shouldn't be the same. The setback should be different when you've got really tall trees. For obvious reasons, because they could fall and still hit.
Yeah,
lines.
but there's lots of other things too that go
Yeah.
with this, that,
Yeah.
you know, around using non-expulsion fuses, liquid filled fuses, using, you know, appropriate clearing around pole bases, wedge fired connectors, just on and on and on. There's all kinds of things that you do to mitigate. And some of that requires very expensive reconstruction of the systems. So it's kind of I know enough about fire mitigation, but
I would say draft the letter
okay.
and defer to Wapuda, let us see the letter
Okay,
and, yeah.
Do you, so you do, okay, I was a little unclear as to
You should
why
don't actually explicitly weigh in.
we need our own, why we need to send our own letter.
Yeah,
we don't need to.
Yeah.
Wapuda asked for our official response as a utility, and,
Yeah.
and that, therefore I bring it to you guys.
Yeah.
And that's why we're here today. I don't think that this applies very much to us.
and if we don't respond, Eddie, I don't think that anybody's gonna,
It's not that
There-
big a
there's
deal.
no
It's
harm
really
in
just like,
maybe we should just not respond.
yeah, I wasn't sure if we
Let's just leave it.
needed
But
to. I
still,
mean,
let's
it-
leave
it-
Brian on the, if he wants to give us any input on the subject, it'll happen when it happens.
All right, well, I will respond back to Wapuda then that we don't have a response.
Yeah.
That's their issue. Okay.
Yeah,
Any other
okay,
question about that?
yeah, all right. That was gonna be my default actually, but.
And we don't respond, but we would tend to defer to the PUDs who have a much bigger stake than that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah,
I don't wanna say that we don't defer, we don't appreciate that there's PUDs that have a bigger stake is what I'm trying to say. We should make clear we understand that.
But yeah, basically,
not a problem. In fact, I know somebody who can help me write a letter that will actually cover all that. Someone who's way better at
Taking notes.
communicating than me.
Yeah, it's in the job description.
Yeah. Okay, we're good on the wildfire? The
Yes.
third one is telecom. And
Is the
I think-
exciting one.
yeah, this is an exciting one, and unfortunately, I've been involved in this for about, I don't know, 40 years. So here is the letter from Wapuda that they are proposing. And again, Brian, we can forward this to you as well. Here's the deal with this, and again, I've been doing this for a long time. Around the country, when a telecom organization wants to attach to a pole, almost universally, there's some exceptions, but almost universally, the pole is owned by a power company, whether it's public or private, anywhere in the country. Probably 1% or 2% of the poles nationwide are not owned by a power company. They are owned by a telecom company. And I can show you some examples of that. The telecom companies basically don't want to pay for pole attachments or make ready or anything else because that runs up their costs. And they are against that. Anything that adds, you know. And each one of those decisions is made typically at either the state level, if it's an investor-owned utility for the power company now. So the UTC, for instance, would tell Puget that's a reasonable contact fee and proceed, or it's done by a local commission. And you guys, if we had a bunch of poles and we were renting out space to a telecom, I would come to you and say, hey, here's how much it costs us each year. You know, look at the depreciation schedule, you know, you amortize all your costs, and here's the share of the pole that they've got, and that works out to $18.75 a year or a month per pole they would actually contact. And I would have good justification for that. I'd be able to roll it out to you and we could debate, you know, we should have included this, we shouldn't have included that, you know, and we'll get there. And you guys would decide and say, yep, that's what we ought to charge for that. Almost all of the customer-owned utilities are in a cost recovery mode for that. And so all they do is figure out what the cost should be allocated, and then that's what they charge. Again, the telecom companies hate that. So all of the regulation around this today is in the hands of either the overseers of the power company for the investor owns or local elected commissions for customer owns. And they're the ones who decide on what this should be. The legislation that's being pushed now at the federal level would reserve that to the Federal Communications Commission, the FCC. Now, again, you don't go to the Regulator Hall of Fame by raising rates. And the FCC, their responsibility is to keep rates low for telecom and also to encourage the rollout of telecom nationwide. They have a built-in incentive to essentially drive that contact fee to zero. And that, I believe, is fundamentally why the telecoms want it at the FCC. Take it out of local control, and I think that is a very bad answer for our entire industry. This letter reflects that. It reflects accurately what I just said. And my recommendation as your leader of staff is that we endorse this, full throat and just push it on that way. Partially it's due to my background. Partially you think anybody could attach to our transmission poles if this goes through. And we might have to make space for them. And while there might be some make-ready charges, we would essentially be under collecting for the costs going forward. So I think it would be a very bad idea, even given our current configuration. It'd be a worse idea if our configuration ever changes in the future. It's horrible for Puget. It's horrible for all of the distribution owning customer-owned utilities nationwide. This is just a bad answer.
Ironically, for Whatcom PUD and its current near-term efforts, that would help. But the reality is that it doesn't improve it. It's not good policy.
Right. It's bad policy.
This should materially benefit us in the short term.
And you guys have heard me say, and Brian has heard me say this, so I'm not gonna speak out of turn here. I don't like the make-ready charges from Puget. And I think that they're using the make-ready process to do pole replacements beyond perhaps what I would do if I was in their position. However, the annual and monthly charges strike me as quite fair. I don't think that Puget is in any way, abusing their power on that, or the UTC is. I think that they've done a good job of balancing out actual costs and recovering those costs. So I'm just this is a terrible thing they're proposing at the federal level. Now, an attorney might argue that this is a matter of states' rights, always has been, and if you federalize it, there's good grounds for a lawsuit saying that no, this constitutionally is a states' right issue, but that will take decades or however long it takes to get to the Supreme Court for
Would
this.
prefer the bill not to pass.
The federal government can't even balance a checkbook. I don't think that we should. give
There's
them
that.
Yeah. What's our conversation or commission on this subject? I'm comfortable with the letter Stephanie wrote.
Oh, I absolutely am comfortable with that, yeah.
Yeah, I'm fine. I think I'm fine with it. Yeah, I guess, trying to better understand where things might go here, because this is a House resolution, right? So is this merely to signal, what might be a rulemaking that could happen under federal authority without new legislation?
I think that if they have a resolution that is then passed by the Senate, I don't know if it requires a presidential approval or not, but it would change the rules under which the FCC would be able to operate.
Okay,
Then they could adopt that and just do it. And I don't think they need any further authorization. So the resolution itself is, I think, a bad thing.
so the resolution itself does precede a rulemaking directly. Okay.
Which is different. Is that a different thing at the federal level compared to the state level? Because I don't think that state executive can enter into rulemaking without explicit.
Look what the Department of Ecology does around municipal water law.
Yeah, but
Think about that.
well, I'm not
Yeah,
saying,
they can.
I'm not saying they don't.
That's the executive branch.
I know, but I'm not saying what they do. I'm saying what our state constitution says they can do.
And we have not been able to bring them to heel on this issue yet. So until we are able to do that, I would say they can do that. Regardless of what the Constitution says, they're able to do it.
Lawlessness.
Yeah, I just was trying to see if there's a difference, between state and federal, that's all.
This one, I think it's actually harder to get the feds to do something than the state. But in this case, once it's done, it's much harder to undo than at the state level, in my opinion. And I've had cases before FERC. I've never had one before the FCC, although I've been signed on as, what do they call that? Not an intervener, but a friend of the court, amicus. Yeah, done that with the, when Pacific County had the lawsuit that I think ultimately went to the Supreme Court, which pushed it back a step. We were amicus on that when I was in Snohomish. So it's been an
Okay,
issue
so,
for a long time.
any further?
I just, it,
Do you believe in local control?
I do, and yet, as far as how this, it's not clear to me that this would actually benefit us and our goals of broadband deployment.
Our very, very short term, it could benefit us, very short
Well,
term.
that's why I said earlier, is that
Long-term harm.
in the near term, this particular House bill actually does benefit. us.
That's what I was, yeah, that's what I'm
Yeah.
saying, like, just pointing out, it would be,
Right,
Right, robbing a bank might benefit me short term, long term, 30 years in the slammer is not gonna be good for me. You know, I mean, there's lots
Yeah.
of things in life that have short term gain with long term loss.
yeah, I mean, I just wasn't sure if we needed to weigh in, but,
I
you know,
will not
I do take, you know, it bears a lot of weight that you're recommending that, so.
I actually recommend full-throated approval.
Yeah,
This one is.
yeah,
this is a big
for
deal.
me, it was a conversation with Stephanie at the last telecom meeting. And you know what PUD is dealing with is a complicated set of, and we are too, but a lot of it gets handled on our behalf, but what PUD is this trade-offs of what's good policy and what's not good policy. So it's hard for us to make arguments later on what's good policy when we take it, if we're too opportunistic with policy. So, for example, the position we've taken on BEAD financing. And that appears to have prevailed. To maintaining many of our applications that could have been had a lower price per BSL if we would have gone to Leo.
Mhm.
You know, that there's examples there where we're saying, well, that's not good policy to go to Leo for so many different addresses. There's other examples also, but just using this one example. And so, you know, in that case, it's not in our favor to go to Leo, but I'm saying that it's cheaper. It's cheaper.
Right,
So it checks the box more cost effectively for the federal government. But we're saying, well, that's not the right long-term solution for improving our competitiveness as a nation. So I think it's a similar kind of thing, is that we do want to keep whole attachment we do want that to be, if an efficient system, but when you talk about infrastructure, it's like it outlives all of us. And so we want it to be cost effective and efficient, and we want the right people paying for the right things so that it survives over the long term. So if you transfer costs from the telecom industry to the electric industry, then what you're going to do is to encourage the telecom industry to be even reckless in cases in deploying infrastructure. I mean, there should be a cost in expanding infrastructure. It shouldn't be free, because it's not free.
right.
So,
to be fair, it's sort of unique, right, that we do both.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, other people don't have to worry about that, right?
Like Chelan,
Yeah.
they do both, but
Mhm.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
it's fairly rare around the country.
Mhm.
Just to interject, there's some questions posed about like what, as a resolution as opposed to legislation maybe is what you're getting at. I'm just reading a summary, at least a summary of the resolution. It says this bill. I'm referring to House Resolution 278. This bill limits the authority of state or local
It's a bill.
county to regulate the placement, construction, and modification of telecommunications service facilities. So I don't know exactly how the feds label their legislative acts, but at least that's the description of it.
Okay,
And if it's a bill, it would require a president's signature. However, it would lead immediately to rate making that would be consistent with the bill. That would eliminate a lot of local control.
So Eddie, for me, it's the right decision to support this letter because, you know, I don't think we want to communicate in terms of a telecom policy. It's not by any means necessary telecom expansion. You know, it's not that situation. It's long-term infrastructure. We're doing it for long-term competitiveness of our communities.
So do we all agree to sign on to this?
yeah, sure.
Okay.
It
Now,
sort of made me giggle a little bit when you were talking, so, my grandfather worked for the telephone company. So, I don't know, 3 years ago, I said, I referred to them as telephone lines. And, Chris was like, those are power poles.
yeah, I can see things one way.
Yes, definitely one way. Mhm.
Okay,
Again,
So,
so I
I'll entertain a-
it's much better at communication.
I'll entertain a motion to support, Stephanie Deluz's letter from Wapuda, in opposition to HR. We had a number for the bill?
Yeah, it's 278.
HR 278 at the federal level.
Yeah, I'll second.
Okay, I'll second, we got a motion, a second. Did I make the motion? Okay, I'll say, I made the motion.
Yes,
Okay, I made the
yeah.
motion, secondly. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 All right, I will send that communication as soon as we're done here.
Great.
Is there anything more under general manager's report?
There is not. Thank you for your attention.
Oh, really? That was it?
Was it? I don't know.
I feel like we got our money's worth. Let's move on to the operations report. Kurt,
Hey, good morning, commissioners. So out on our D station project, we're getting pretty close out there. We could be metering flows by tomorrow afternoon. So that would be a big deal because we've been working on this for quite a while. So getting close on that. So that's a big win. And also we received our letter back from AltaGas. They've signed their letter and for that new transmission spur. And so we are working with our engineers and starting to get that ball rolling there.
All right.
And
Great.
that's another exciting thing there.
thank you, Kurt. I barely recognized you without a beer in your hand.
Without a what?
Context. I saw-
Context, yes, please, context.
I saw Kurt at a fundraiser for the food bank the other night.
Oh, nice.
And I was standing there as well. I'm sitting now, so that might be another
Oh,
part.
Okay, I embellish. I am the politician in the room.
Yeah.
Anyway,
That-
so,
That's all.
Thanks,
yeah,
Kurt.
yeah. So,
Thank you.
Kurt.
Old business?
This one, yeah, old business, so, broadband update?
Wonder?
Sure, good morning. I think, Chris, the previous conversation on the FTC was kind of the big news today. On the project front for Point Roberts, we've resubmitted all of our PSC make ready packages and kudos to PSC, they're already getting us feedback. So they're clearly streamlining our make ready permits this time around. Not that they hadn't in the previous one either, but they're definitely more attentive this time. And when we met with them last week, they assured us that they're gonna stay on it through the entirety of the make ready permit process. So that's all moving forward. And once that goes through, or parallel to that, we're in final conversations with Quick-Tel to finalize the IRU. So once that gets signed and we know the cost for the make ready work, then things will start really start moving on. So
Have we submitted the new plans to, DAP for review?
We have not, no, because there may be some changes to,
Because of the make ready?
because of the make ready, yes.
Things are moving along. Summary.
Still lots of potential exit ramps,
Mhm.
as we've discussed many times.
And then BEAD, we're still waiting.
BEAD, we're still waiting, there's, at the telecom committee level, there's, a letter to our congressional delegation that's calling out the use of non-deployment funds for things such as middle mile and, infrastructure resiliency. Things like routers, devices, and, things of that matter, so our final report of the state submitted to NTIA includes all the, fiber and cable and the satellite, and you got all that up, and it's roughly $870 million of our 1.2 billion, so there's a pot of funds available for non-deployment funds, and what we're trying to say is, don't give those dollars away, use them for non-deployment funds, which is concurrent with what NTIA spells out in their rules for allowable use of those dollars, so what PUD is looking for, partner organizations such as us to sign on to that letter to our congressional delegation.
Oh, so is that an opportunity now for us to discuss?
We can, because we don't have the letters today, I can send it to Chris to get it out to you if you want to review them before we sign our name on, but I'll refer to Chris on how he wants to, because he just got back, we haven't had a chance to discuss it.
Okay.
We'd support signing that, right?
Yeah, we would support signing that, yeah, they basically just, you said it, I'm just gonna simplify a little bit more even. Is that there's money that wasn't spent. There's potential that money to be clawed back, that would be inconsistent with the original legislation that created that pot of funding. Or with the, it also would be incompatible with the NTIA, which is responsible for overseeing that federal legislation that created that funding. With their rules as well. So for that reason, we would like to see that funding remain in the state of Washington and have beneficial uses for improving broadband infrastructure. In Washington state.
Yeah, because there's other costs that need to be covered and
Yeah.
there's money there.
Yeah,
so.
and we're not gonna there are gonna be holes.
So if you guys want me to go ahead and sign off on that letter on our behalf, just let me know and I'll do that.
Yes, please.
Yes, please, yeah.
Eddie,
Yeah, I support.
thank you. That's easy. Anything else on broadband?
Oh, I just wanna clarify one thing on B. Do we have any update? Last I heard it was like January timeframe when we hear official notification on the funding we participated in with the port as well as with the telecom industry.
No, I haven't heard any updated official timeline.
What's your guess right now?
I'm thinking January.
Okay, so that's our guess.
Well, between the shutdown and the holidays, you're in January.
Okay. Geothermal.
If they can balance.
Oh,
the check.
adjudication, sorry, adjudication.
I don't have.
Thank you,
anything
commissioners. I can give a quick adjudication update. There's not a lot to update on. The court did issue its first case management order. I'll circulate that to you. That's procedure, setting forth procedures for the docket sheet and notice. However, the court's extended the stay for motions. We expect that to be further extended into the springtime. Ecology anticipates asking for a motion for publication for service for those who weren't served. The effect of that will be those who weren't personally served will likely have a deadline for filing their claims in July or so of 2026. So there may be multiple deadlines for claim filing. Ours will remain May 1st. We're ready to file those and we intend on filing our claims in the first quarter of 2026. That's the case standing committee continues to meet. I will be sending a letter to the court recommending that Matt Wells and or Sarah Fraze from my office replace me on the committee effective January 1 with my pending retirement. And that's all I have.
Thank you.
I have an item regarding adjudication that I want to bring up, and I'm glad John I didn't see you in the room, so I'm glad you're attending remotely, John, as well. I've gotten a request from a county council member, as well from a staff member at the county. Regarding a set of comp plan amendments. That have been initiated by the county council members as it relates to adjudication. I haven't reviewed those comp plan amendments.
I have.
They amount to nothing.
And so I want to know how the commission wants to proceed with this. Do we want to make up our own statement on the subject, or do we want to just
I've been asked to make a statement sort of against
as
that.
well?
So, but not in favor of that, but somebody has asked me to clarify. So essentially, you can't make a local ruling that goes against a statewide ruling. Like that, the local authority doesn't exist here. Like the Department of Ecology is not going to say, uh-oh, Whatcom County has, you know, this in their comprehensive plan, I guess we're gonna give up adjudication. Like that's not going to happen. And I'll double down on what I said at the last meeting, like now is the time when we start working on solutions to wet water and get past the fact that adjudication is happening, whether we like it or not. All it does is, you know, establish a priority, basically, who has a senior water right, who has a junior water right. It's literally, it's not going to solve our water problem in Whatcom County. And we need to get ahead of this, because I've seen lots and lots of comments online where people are like, oh, yes, we're gonna take on ecology and don't turn in your, you know,
This sort
filing,
of,
like,
as you know, yeah.
don't respond.
I just wanna, if I could, I'm sorry to interrupt, what I was trying to focus on is a slightly different issue. And that is in what way does the Whatcom PUDs or organizationally as a commission weigh in on this policy discussion, if at all? And that's the topic I wanna discuss first.
Well, that is, but how I'm weighing in on that, you cannot create a local ruling in your comprehensive plan that supersedes the statewide adjudication. You can't, that is my response. That
Okay.
should be the response of this commission. I mean, I know I'm just one person, but like, that's just reality.
Of course,
but
you know, I
yeah,
agree with,
yeah.
you know, I agree with them, and I've made comments on this subject over the last year.
Yeah, I mean, we can, you know, I'm probably a little more abrupt than other people. I'm sure we could
You need
say
a
it nice.
communications director.
I need a communications director, but it's like, you know, but all of this conversation gives me great concern for the people out there who are taking this at face value and aren't going to be turning in their paperwork to establish their water right. Like that is the most important thing. And I maybe I do think that we should, as a commission that is deeply involved in adjudication, make some sort of statement that's like, here are the facts of the matter, like,
Okay.
please, you know, comply with this, because that's the only way that you can, you know, establish your water right, be part of the game, make sure that you have water. And then we need to take all of our time and energy that we're using to focus on stuff like this and focus on finding wet water solutions.
So, Commissioner Dewey.
I agree.
Thoughts on this?
I agree with Jamie. My first reaction to seeing those amendments was, well, those just don't belong in a comprehensive plan.
Mhm.
Like if the council wanted to make a statement as a resolution or something, I don't think it would be our place necessarily. Well, it might be our place to weigh in, just because if the consequence of it is, as Jamie was saying, harmful to people, if it's you know, if it's actually about putting out a message that persuades people to act against their own interests by refraining from filing a claim, that's a harmful message. And just as, you know, us as a public agency and you know, public servants, I would say it's some responsibility for us to just set, you know, just speak truth about it, right? So I mean, I'd say if we were gonna send a note to county council, I would just simply I mean, it could be as simple as, we think you should table this, like, and this is just simply just, this doesn't belong in a comprehensive plan, and, you know, yeah, sure, there's definitely the conversation we had about wet water solutions and all of that, but, it just, you know, just let it be known that we don't think this is something that they should even vote on, in my opinion.
I mean, that's my opinion as well.
Yeah.
That it's,
So,
Might I suggest that maybe that Chris and I work on a letter essentially
exactly.
saying that,
But-
you know, we want the community to be aware that adjudication is not going to be delayed in our view. People need to file their claims, and the focus should be on wet water solutions. And if we urge policies in the comprehensive plan, it should be to drive wet water solutions.
that pretty much nails it.
That's the guidance that I've received from the various commissions, the various configurations of commission in the last 4 years. And that's what we've been acting on as staff.
Yeah,
We encourage people
there's no-
looking for wet
there-
water and file your claim.
yeah. So, John, would you like to, is there anything else you'd like to elucidate on this subject?
No, I was just going to suggest Chris and I can work on that letter if you'd like.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, and I agree with everything that was, of course, that was said, you know, I mean, I've spoke quite a bit on the subject and I don't need to go into it yet. So, yeah, I thought I'm gonna, without having Lisa help me on this, I'm also gonna make one last statement. I think a lot of that comp plan effort by that county council member effort is performative.
Agreed.
I felt that way at the Rome Grange, and, I just think it's unfortunate. It's really unfortunate, because it distracts people, and it's a very simple ball that everybody needs to keep their eye on, and that's, you know, if you're not at the table, you're on the menu. So I wish we can all get that message out
yeah.
to people. Please do so if you can.
Well, I do think that council member like represents a community of people that feel like they're going to be harmed, you know, and is trying maybe misguidedly so to help, you know, I don't know, I can't,
All right,
yeah.
you may not have a stronger feeling on that as I do, which is fine, we can differ, but,
That's all I had, Commissioner.
Let's move on to geothermal.
So, so we are supporting a draft.
A letter, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think we don't need to get, there's no urgency that you can bring that letter back to us and then we can.
Yeah, I can get it back to you before the time. You guys can say, yeah, this looks good, go ahead and send it.
Right,
Or we can set it up for your signatures. I mean, that's fine too.
yeah. I don't think we need to sign it. I think we should approve it though. So, is that okay? Yeah, okay. So we'll see a copy of it and then we'll approve it at the December 9th meeting.
Yeah,
Okay.
seems timely. I understand they're gonna be, council's picking up their comp plan in January, so.
Yeah. So it's not a rush. Okay. Moving on to geothermal update.
I think that, there's not a whole lot of update I need to give you guys at this point. We have been not assured, we've been told that, we'll have a decision on leasing the land or auctioning the leased land for geothermal exploration sometime in March. And that is about 2 or 3 weeks after the, Waputa fly-in. Yeah. And Waputa is still trying to get a meeting set up with Secretary Wright. I just read, again, it was online, so I don't know how true it is, that, that Secretary Wright may not be our secretary by then. So, I guess, more to follow on that. We do have money allocated for drilling, if we ever get there. And Representative Rammel is still very, very supportive of that, as is Senator Shoemake, and I think we're in pretty darn good shape there. And if I may just add, I thought we had some really good attendance, not just from the tribal representatives, but our county council. We had 4 of them show up, and they, 2 of them really knew nothing about the project. It was their first exposure, and they were very, very positive. And we also had, of course, Representative Rammel and Senator Shoemake there.
And Senator Lovett.
And Senator Lovett, yeah. It was outstanding representation, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Very, very, very happy to see that. Long term, it bodes well for support for the project, whether or not we ultimately have a project. Right now, the right people are behind it.
Do we have a date for meeting with Nooksat Council? Weren't we going to have a sit down and sign our sort of,
We do not.
we didn't, okay.
Yeah, Mike is still working on setting that up. Their calendar is so much more challenging than ours, which is interesting. They want to sign the MOU and we want to sign it. And
Okay,
yeah, we're still on that.
okay.
From what I heard, you know, in talking after the meeting was, after the new year, like, yeah, there's not,
Oh,
yeah, it's not, there's, yeah, but yeah, interest to schedule, but just,
Okay.
you know, busy getting through December,
A lot going on.
yeah.
That to me was a, seminal meeting. That Friday meeting, it was a big deal.
Yeah, it's great.
I did offer afterwards to make a less technical presentation to county council and the counselors who were there chuckled and they agreed that the folks who were interested in the subject were at the meeting. So an additional presentation wouldn't necessarily help. It would be to people who really don't care.
I just felt like all the right people that were in the room were there. The nature of the conversation felt good. The questions were great.
Yeah.
The dialogue was great. And I think we all realize that there's a lot of responsibility in doing this kind of a project right. And just very hopeful that this, I mean, obviously I care a lot about this project. I got to meet the gentleman that I had the first conference call on geothermal exploration. And I already forgot his name. He was
Trevor?
the young, the guy who's been there the longest, the
Trevor.
dark bearded Trevor. So I first had a conference call with Trevor and Pete Selleck from West Washington, who's no longer at West Washington University, in 2019.
Hmm.
And I remember reporting on that, and I got cross-eyed looks at the commission, that commission back then, you know, that kind of what's that TV show? What'd you talk about, Willis? Kind of look from my colleagues and but to see this project come so far in 7 years. Is it 7 months? Yeah. Almost 7 years. It just really, it feels good but I do care about this project, obviously, and I also care about the way we're doing it too.
Mhm.
And I care about the way we're doing it because I want us to figure out how to be respectful of cultural issues, environmental issues, and still build shit. I really am looking forward to us setting an example of things going right. Really am looking forward to that, and a little bit hopeful, a little bit of rainbows in there, I admit it, but I'm gonna hang on to that, so.
Not even I cussed during meetings.
There was a cuss in there? Oh,
Yes, there was.
I didn't- all right.
Real stuff.
You think it was me?
Yeah, well, that, in,
Sorry.
but in a very positive spirit for sure, and, yeah, yeah. Echo that, and it was, yeah, it was great. I mean, the presentation, there was a lot of excitement in the room. A lot of key people there. It was really wonderful to meet and talk with some of the Nooksack tribal council members, staff working on this, and the consultants and everyone doing the study. And yeah, it's exciting to be coming to this, you know, finally turning over to the next steps with this. Might have one more comment, but first, Jamie, did you have anything to?
No, I mean, like everyone, I enjoyed the meeting. I have some follow-up questions about, you know, getting the executive summary out. You and I talked about it a little.
Yeah, it's not posted yet. We don't have it back from Hero yet.
Yeah, cause you know, there were people in the audience that were trying to take, you know, photos of the slides, and it would be really handy to have some of that available if they could
Yeah.
get it to us.
The consultant was actually mortified that happened.
Oh, let's see, I had told the person next to me, I was like, I think maybe they're gonna make some of this available, but yeah, so it's.
Well, part of the problem was the financial modeling that they've used is preliminary and they're gonna be changing it.
Oh, of course,
So
yeah,
it's one of those things where you look at it and you go, well, gosh, they said it was going to be this much.
yeah,
And the other thing that, Sue Petty asked me, and I don't know if you got carbon on it or not, about the levelized cost of energy, LCOE.
Oh, I can't recall.
Okay.
Sorry.
But I got it and on Friday when it was in the air and I read it and I went, oh no, I need to be on my computer to even answer this because it's not a simple thing. That they need to, one thing that's important that we need to have is an estimate of what the levelized cost of energy is. That we'll be able to say on average, it's $85 a megawatt hour or $185 a megawatt hour. It's that kind of, we need to be able to say so that people can go, okay, this makes sense. And we're just not, anyway, I gotta help Sue through that.
yeah. Okay.
Something I've done before.
Yeah, okay, good, good. I know we kept deferring to you on a lot of things during the meeting. It's great that you were,
Yeah, well, they're great geothermal people and
Yeah.
they're working with utility.
yeah.
So each person has their swim lane.
Right.
Okay, anything else on geothermal?
Well, I guess well, I would just say, so, I mean, yeah, I wouldn't want to be doing this any other way, pursuing this opportunity than in with partnership with the Nooksack tribe. And I do really see it as very much being in their court, how we want to proceed with, the next movements to explore the resource and thereafter. Did want to note, it did come up, as a staff person from Swinomish tribal community spoke up in the Q&A and, just noted that they have strong concerns about proceeding with any project of this sort near Baker Lake or in the area, and that there are, there's overlap in traditional territories in U and A, and just noting it's something that we'll want to be really careful and intentional about in proceeding, and just that selection of the site is so key. And I mean, there's obviously so many factors to consider when we do that. But yeah, just, whether or not we're in, which side of the mountain we're on, it's,
And I would let Nooksack take the lead on, let the.
yeah, tribal to tribal for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah.
We'll lean out.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of the
And-
things there were some people in the room that were more surprised by that and some people who weren't surprised. I talked to a couple of council members, from Nooksack tribe that were not surprised by that.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it'll definitely be with tribal to tribal, maybe, tribal regional. It might be in a associated tribes kind of thing. But certainly, the opportunity is significant enough that there's plenty of impetus to figure that out, jurisdiction type of issues. One other thing that I brought up in my one-on-one with Chris, I just wanted the commission to know about is the obviously transmission from the southeast side and transmission from the west side will be different.
Oh, yeah.
So one of the things I was wondering about is, are there things we can do that can help the community we're working with better understand what the pluses and minuses are if you only thought about transmission between southeast side development and west side development? I don't know, you can summarize your answer to that line of questioning, but
Well, that's a little different than how we talked about it. If we were doing transmission in a vacuum at this point, I would refrain from making any comment because we don't have a project. And anything that you opine about one route or the other gives the NIMBYs who are opposed to that particular route the ammunition. And I'm not willing to go there.
Not there yet to talk about in public, right?
so it's basically you do it the way your organizational experience or your history is that it's just better to get to it when it's time to get to it and not before.
Yeah, because we may not have a project for a million different reasons. And, then why fight the fight?
Yeah, I'm recognizing that to go and do our exploratory drilling, that doesn't hinge on having a transmission route, right? Just road access and other things, and so where, where the test goes doesn't have to be necessarily be where the power plant is.
Yeah, and I also get the feeling that there's not that much difference between different pathways. They're their own separate thing, and
Wait, there's huge difference between them, but it's, each one of them has profound challenges.
Mm.
There's no easy answer, I guess is the short answer.
It does seem so difficult, yeah, like what we're endeavoring to do, doesn't it?
Mhm.
And then you remember how difficult it must have seemed, 100 years ago to build hydroelectric dams up in these mountains. And build all of it, just connect so many people to power in such a short amount of time as they did, so.
I would just urge you guys, not to be surprised by that. I mean, if you're talking about a home run kind of project, you're talking about a multiple billions of dollars investment. And I would expect that to be complex and difficult.
Mhm.
I wouldn't expect that to be easy.
Yeah, right.
It's just not how things work.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, anything more on geothermal? Move on to strategic plan?
I just do want to point out that Kurt gave us the new customer update, so the strategic plan should be
Last item
the
here.
last item in old business.
Great.
And with that, I'd like to turn it over to Lisa to talk to us about our strategic plan.
Good morning, commissioners. The last and what I hope will be the final update, the strategic plan is in the packet.
Oh,
And so it includes, the content things that we asked about. We've identified some of the photos, we've added the signatures. Most importantly, I think that we've come up with some graphics and cover that is much more pleasing, I think people will be happy with. And at this point, we're not looking for any, content changes. We've been over it, multiple times, both as a commission and as staff. And I don't think that there's anything, unless you see something that is just hugely problematic at this point. We're looking for an improvement.
Can I just add,
Yes.
I am really proud of this project. And although I got a little bit of pride of ownership, I think Lisa has really shepherded the thing through. Staff came through, you guys came through, we got the right consultants. I mean, it's just, we got public input, everything went right at us. I'm very, very happy with this product.
I absolutely agree with you. I'm really grateful for all of the hard work from staff, commission, the consultants. One of the first conversations that I've had with our consultant, they were like, what do you want to get out of this? And, I was like, I just want to create, a strategic plan that's visionary. It's something that I can be proud to put my name on, and proud that, we got together and worked on, and I think that this is a home run. I was not here for the last strategic plan, and I sort of felt like there were a lot of loopholes in the last strategic plan. And, I don't know, I'm proud of.
I mean, the last strategic plan was developed with a process that was much attenuated from
Yeah,
this process.
it's
So,
wonderful.
so, I
Good
just
job.
I was just double checking on the way that goals and strategy and tactics are laid out, and yeah, and I'm really happy with if we finally figured out how to get all of that.
Easy to read.
Easy to read. There, I have one minor civil thought. There's a couple of pages where the graphics are grainy.
Yeah, that's our printer.
Yeah.
Okay,
These are just done on a copier, so, these will go out, once it's printed, it'll go out to a printer and be put into, firewall books.
how many are we planning to print?
Chris said that last time we printed 50.
Everybody said it was way too much, but we're down to like 2 or 3 now.
Yeah,
And they're handy.
I have 2 of them.
It's okay.
Two of what?
The old strategic plan.
Yeah, no, I think 50 is good.
Yeah, that's.
And then, of course, we'll have it posted online,
And
and people can
we will-
download the high res if they want.
I mean, obviously the document, we own it, we paid for it, so we own it, right?
Right.
So if we need to print more, we'll print more.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's not a big expense or big deal, so.
And it will be available online. And anybody who wants to download the high-res images, they can just do that and we're happy.
For sure, yeah.
Yeah, I'll echo everything Jamie said. Thanks for saying all that, Jamie. And in addition to say that, having been part of the last effort, been delighted to help frame how this new effort should go. And then seeing the result of the effort, just, I'm happy and I just, see this as an organization that's going through a process of ongoing improvement, otherwise referred to as PUD. And, it's reflected in this strategic plan and I look forward to, making our strategic plan more of a central piece in our conversations at the commission and outside of the commission too, so.
Yeah, I love the way it turned out, and yeah, I think, the final design and everything looks great, and it's gonna be, yeah, really invaluable as far as, whenever anyone asks, well, what does Wacom PUD do? Here you go. It's easy, it's accessible, it's easy to read, it's clear, it's, well laid out aesthetic, and the policies are clear. I think, yeah, overall, everyone, thank you for, just go through this whole process. Everyone who worked on it, MFA did a great job, Lisa. And yeah, I will move to approve.
Oh, I second, yeah, absolutely.
There's a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, everybody. It's occurred to me that when will we do our will we update the document, strategies and tactics, in 2 years? What do we want to do there? And we will play it by ear.
Yeah,
We don't
can I
have to
make
do
a
it.
Suggestion?
Yeah,
Yeah, I think that the world will change and.
really?
Oh, God. Yeah, the only thing we can count on.
The truest thing I'll say.
Well, the least refutable is that.
I mean, arguably, laws of thermodynamics, things will change, and I think that when they change enough, that there's a gap between what we have here and
Yeah.
reality, that'll drive the update, and my experience has been, you really wanna check it loosely every year, but probably every other year is when you're gonna wanna tweak it, whether that's enough to actually formally change the document or not, it depends on what it is. But for sure, we're gonna wanna go back in at the end of 5 or 6 years and launch another one. Or it may be a refresh of this one if it still serves us well.
Would it be a nice thing to mail a copy of the strategic plan to those people who participate in the process from outside the PUD? Obviously, we all have our copies, but like, for example, Todd, we should mail him a copy, I think, because he.
Or just email them and say, anytime you want to, drop
Yeah.
by and here's a copy.
Right, something like that.
Yeah, no, and we can let everybody know who did this,
Yeah,
that if you
right.
wanna drop by for a hard copy, please do.
Yeah.
And we'll have hard copy, we'll run out, we'll print. it.
And 2 pieces of candy from our jar.
It's
It's not a community, from Lisa's jar. Okay.
Let's send it to everybody.
No,
Just 'cause
I'm
it's so
not-
nice.
I meant people that contributed. I want them
Now,
to know
the
that.
GM's gonna wade in on the cost issue.
No, I mean, really, I just wanted people to feel like they're appreciated for their contribution to the
Absolutely.
effort, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. All right, well, let's move on to new business.
The biggest chunk of new business, in fact, it's the only chunk, really is our budget for next year. So I'd like to turn it over to Annette Smith and talk about the final on the budget.
Good morning, commissioners.
Morning.
I'm here to present our revised budget. End of October, just to remind you, we came together and I presented the draft budget. And then in the meantime, between then and now, we had it open for comments. We met with the customers. And then we also included some more real life October activities. So we're just going to go through and kind of do a revision of where we're at with this. Oh, and we did not receive any comments from any of our customers.
Really?
Well,
Must be they're okay with it.
They were.
That's what I'm taking.
Yeah, it was not a, they looked at it and they were okay with it.
Yeah.
Okay, so they didn't, they,
I'm talking about our industrial customers. Like,
Right.
our commercial customers, we had a couple. That, but,
Yeah.
Grandview, but,
right,
but the industrial, we had Phillips 66, BP and PSE there.
Great.
So covered 95% of our water sales.
that's important. I just want to make sure that they didn't just, miss the window. They definitely had an opportunity and were there.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
we made sure that they,
Yeah. That's. Okay,
All right, so the outline is very similar to what we had last time. And then I also want to underline that our revised budget is on our website now, and it's replaced what was the draft, so you can find it there. So under operating costs, again, includes October actuals, so the numbers have moved around. I'm also not gonna point out this exact same things I did on the draft budget, so I'm just gonna try and highlight the things that have changed or any big additions that we have. So overall, it did go up a little bit, and we had some increase in electric power. BPA let us know that there is going to be a surcharge for the next 9 months. They fell below a metric in one of their reserves. O&M went up a bit. But the big thing I wanted to talk about is this LUD debt service. You don't typically see this in budgets. And just to give you a short version of the history here, we did a big line extension, and then in 2007, we issued bonds to cover that. We also enacted a LUD, or a local utility district, and we put assessments on those properties that new line fronted. Now, in 2007, interest rates were high, and the way the LUDs work, you cannot build reserves in there. So, and another part of the LUD is the covenant says that if you sell your property, you need to pay off your LUD assessment. So we started getting money in ahead of what we had expected. And just because of the rules and how we can invest, the interest rate on those was quite a bit lower than what we were paying on that bond. So we knew we were going to be short on these bonds. In 2016, we did do a refinance, and we took care of quite a bit of that shortage, but we still are going to end up with some short. So this is the first year that we're going to see that in the Grandview system. So in 2026, we're estimating about 29,000. We're going to be short in that LUD, where the assessments do not cover the debt service. So we're going to be short 2026, 2027, and then in 2028, we'll receive the very last assessment that will offset some of that shortage. So overall, right now, I'm looking about a $70,000 short in that. But I kind of rearranged some of this debt, so this is more visible, so we can see what's going on there. Is there any questions with that?
this is a comment that Grandview is a gift that keeps on giving.
I hear that.
can we get the view enlarged a little bit? The legibility, please. Thank
Yeah, I
you.
think, okay.
Did you want to go back to the prior slide?
I think I got it, but I just had to squint a bit, so.
Okay. So under operating costs, where we go down and drill down a little bit more into the detail of some of these, the two that I did want to talk about is under business projects. Between the draft budget and now, we did add a line item for a lobbyist and at $30,000, and this would be in connection with the geothermal. With the geothermal was kind of being stuck, so we thought a lobbyist could be beneficial there. Whether we actually need to use it is still kind of up in the air. And then the second, excuse me?
Oh, let me just jump in on that. If you guys will remember, we were looking at getting a lobbyist to help us get the land to auction. And now we've been assured that that's likely to happen. The decision will happen in one or the other by March. So while this is in the budget, it may not be utilized. On the other hand, if the ruling comes out that, hey, we're not gonna nominate any of these lands, then, I would recommend that we execute on the lobbyist and get them in there to help work to reverse that.
Right.
I had a brief conversation with Congressman Larson on this subject, and he also, I'm just saying something we already know. He's also very supportive of our efforts to get, the leases, just like Senator Cantwell and the rest of our delegation or nearby delegation.
Right.
So,
And then, I'm sorry, you were working on the computer, can't even read it now.
Yes, the computer testing services. This was one other thing that we did add since the draft. And we added 75,000 into the budget for a SCADA assessment that we're going to be doing, looking at our SCADA system.
okay, I have a question regarding this, you know, in our strategic plan, there's, one particular thing that I recall is the investigation, around, CCA. Is that something we're gonna do completely with internal resources, or do we need to hire some consultants for that purpose? Commodity choice aggregation,
Oh, that's ECA.
Yeah.
The, I think we're gonna largely do that internally through Wapuda.
okay,
That was something that we wanna pursue, but it's not a really high cost thing for us.
okay. Yeah, I just wanna make sure that's reflected in the budget. If there's anything that's, any of the studies that came up in the strategic plan, and I think it was under goal 6. I just wanna make sure that we fully.
Yeah.
This is an entirely different flavor. When you have a software package that is more than 5 years old, you ought to be looking at it to see if there isn't something much better already on the market. Maybe better, cheaper, faster, safer, everything. And our SCADA system have been in place for 15 or 20 years. And so the question.
Oh, yeah,
becomes-
I was changing the subject, I'm sorry, yeah.
The question here becomes, does it still fit our business? Is it the system we need going forward? And so that's what this study is gonna be looking at.
But I mean, since we're on the subject of budgeting for studies, you know, I think as Atul was saying, is that there's potentially other things that we might want to explore.
Yeah, there was some kind of external interest, Marcus and Company. Is there anything we need to budget to support that?
Yeah, well, actually, so I was just talking to them about, well, so there may be state or pass-through federal funding opportunities that could, you know, to pursue studies, and
With regards to CCA or?
no, actually, just, for the Cherry Point feasibility study for one, or things in that matter when it comes into, you know, just everything in, you know, alternative energy or new endeavors that we might be exploring, right? Whether at Cherry Point or at Point Roberts or in geothermal, and I think it's good to keep an eye on these opportunities. I know Andrew's, you know, looking out for all that. But I guess I was wondering is if, say like a, you know, window of opportunity comes up or an eligible entity, it's, if say we could, you know, is it better to have more in the budget and not use it, or to go back and amend the budget later to account if, say, there's some money might be coming in for something?
Well, I mean, we've watched this constantly, and what'll happen is you'll get a federal funding opportunity that pops, and we see it the day it pops. Okay, and well, that week anyway, we find out about it. And usually there's some window where it's noticed, and then you can't submit for some months, and then there's an evaluation period and then an award. Almost always, what they want is something that's shovel ready, so you already have to have all of the design work done. And sometimes that is a huge lift with this organization. So we don't typically budget those things unless we're pretty darn sure we're gonna go. So that's why you see budget information around geothermal studies and things like that. We're further down the road. So a lot of the opportunities that you see, it would be, you know, hey, if you have, you can submit your design that you already have complete for a project, and then we may award with matching funds based on that design, but you have to already have it. So that's what I've seen in the last 4 years.
Well, what about, I mean, just for feasibility studies of, you know, around, you know, developing an energy park, for instance, and all of that?
Yeah, we watch for those, and if they come out, we sign on.
Yeah, we don't have a shovel-ready thing for that, it's,
Yeah.
yeah, so I guess I was just curious as.
Those are really rare, by the way. They'll actually pay to do preliminary studies. That's extraordinarily rare.
Right,
So I
yeah,
guess if I can translate to a question for Annette.
yeah,
So Annette, you know, I mean, the PUD has applied for and secured grant funding. There's always a cash flow requirement associated with grants. Not always, almost always a requirement for cash flow with grants. And, that doesn't really, there's nothing in our budget that precludes us from pursuing things like that, right?
Well, and especially, I guess it depends on the grant. Most grants, if it's like a 50% funded, then we need to worry about how we're going to fund that other 50%. But a lot of the
Yeah.
grants we go after do cover the bulk of it. And so since that's kind of a wash overall, it doesn't usually affect our budget a lot. I can also say from being here a while that a lot of grants we cannot really apply for because they a lot of times will typically target residential utilities that have a high residential customer base as opposed to an industrial customer base. So that is also kind of a hindrance in us in some of those grants.
We used to have and then you can help me remember what it was called, but we used to have a kind of almost contingency. Funding for, projects that might come up during the year. It ended up being primarily used for water related projects, but I could see these days it's being used for water and energy exploration projects. Do we have some freedom as far as that goes to do small scale investment into studies that we as an organization decide are worth undertaking?
Well, I think what you're referring to is the Alcoa escrow fund.
Yeah.
That was created years ago from pass-through costs and our reimbursement for handling that between BPA and Alcoa. Currently, we have about I think it's like $39,000 in there right now. So it's not a huge amount. We have spent that down on different studies that we have done that weren't directly related to a utility. So we do have that, but like I said, it's not very big anymore.
That's the funding we used for the peak we had at municipalization. That was the source for that funding.
Yeah, for future budget years, maybe not necessarily, because we do have some money left in that. We may want to consider.
It's not growing, yes, that's the point.
Yeah, and for future, I'm not suggesting that for this year's budget, Chris and Annette, I'm just saying that for futures, we may want to create that kind of a reserve. Just so it's there, if we want to investigate something, there's funding to do that. And modest amount, so.
yeah, I'm wondering, is that the kind of thing that? Can you draw on reserves or something like that, or is it better to like, oh, we just set aside some money, hopefully it could be made up for by grants, or we'll return it to reserves if we don't use it, or say like, I mean, I guess with the 75,000 that we're penciling in for Cherry Point feasibility, is that like, just because we budgeted that amount, is like, when you go and do a, RFP and contract for a study out, you're not just like saying this, I mean, you upfront saying this is exactly the amount that we're gonna spend on this, or do you want some room for negotiation there, right, or bidding?
Well, yeah, I mean, we scope it so that we get a response that's in the neighborhood of what we have budgeted.
Right. Okay, yeah, I guess,
Because you never know exactly what you're gonna get when you go out with an RFP.
but what if we wanted to do more than, what if it was, I mean,
Well, I mean, the
More
typical
than
one
one.
that you would see is you go out asking for one thing and you get a response back that is much more robust than what you asked for, but it's a bullseye. And it's much more expensive. Now what do you do? And then we would come back to you guys and ask for a revision of the budget. Here's why, walk you through it, get you to agree to that, and hopefully be able to demonstrate a nexus between what we're spending and our existing customers. Because that's where ultimately the money comes from.
right.
Okay.
Yeah, I just,
I mean, we can always build reserves for all kinds of stuff, but if you build reserves, it requires you to raise rates and then, you know, accumulate the difference between what you're charging and what you're spending. That's the nature, that's what a reserve is.
Right.
You gotta raise rates to do that, if you're a cost-based organization. That's been the difficulty. Yeah, we'd like to have more reserves, but it's hard with high rates. Yes, sir.
So it's somewhat of a sort of legal financial question. Is the question kind of how much does approval of this budget restrict your endeavors in between now and the next budget?
Basically, yeah,
Yeah.
wiggle room for if
Yes,
it's.
in other jurisdictions, yeah, you amend the budget. I don't know what other
Yeah.
PUD
That's what we've done in
financial
the past.
processes work, but.
We just amend, yeah,
Mhm.
right. Yeah, and I guess that was just the question though, at this point, is there, and I appreciate you bringing up, like, yeah, was there anything else that we had in mind on the horizon in 12 months that?
That's what I brought it up, yeah.
And I guess I think,
There's some wiggle room, but if we need more, we can get it.
yeah, I'd like to think that, 75K in there for chair points probably enough.
Yeah. And again, add in the at least 25 from the potential reserve that we get access, so it could be up to 100.
Yeah, and then otherwise subject to if there's a grant opportunity, we might amend. Cause I know there was one that just like the window closed like last week on something that, might have been eligible for, but definitely weren't, probably ready to be in the running for either, but, looking ahead to next year or, anyway, I'm just, yeah, I appreciate you bringing that up too, cause I think.
But also look at some of the requirements. For instance, one of the studies to do a Cherry Point study, one of the grants to do a Cherry Point study required that you be number one, a local government. We were okay, check that
Yeah.
box, and that you own land there, and we didn't. So you gotta go into the fine print of each one of the grants, and that's what Annette was referring to.
Right.
Cause
Yeah.
it's sometimes it's just not obvious. You read through it and it's like, yeah, God, I'd love to pounce all over this,
And then it's
but we can't.
totally, yeah, I get that, yeah.
Okay,
And I appreciate that you all are looking closely at those. But yeah, this seems
okay,
well thought out.
please proceed.
All right, now let's go on to the personnel. There is no big changes here. Again, the numbers moved around a little bit due to October actuals, but we did not increase any positions for next year. We're settled on about a 3% COLA for next year. So that's personnel, that's labor. Now, the capital budget, I know last presentation, this was hard to see. I've kind of tried to make it a little smaller, and hopefully if Mike's increased it on the screen, you can see it. This will also be attached in our minutes. I forwarded a copy to Joseph. But it hasn't moved too much except for we have added E31. And what that is that's power to the intertie. That previously was under RW 55. Just a little backstory, you probably remember, we have two very major water lines going out from each of the plants, and then we constructed an intertie that connects those two water lines. We need a way to power that intertie for the SCADA, for the valves, all that. We have been pulling power off the Alcoa substation, but because of the Alcoa and the BPA and all of that, we need a better solution to that. We went to engineering firms. We did a lot of brainstorming internally, and it is coming to a point where we have to do something next year. So what it is we are creating a small sub and running a line to power that intertie. Now that also is going to help do the AltaGas that we talked about at that previous commission meeting. But that's about $4.5 million that we didn't really have in there previously that we're going to be spending next year.
Why not do that with batteries and generators?
I mean, it seems like a significant enough amount that did that did you have to change a bunch of other numbers to add that in?
We will talk about that.
And I just gotta ask, is it,
So I will forestall the question. Yes, we've looked at batteries, solar, we've looked at everything out there. Part of it is you're in wetlands. You cannot get a permit to build anything out there, and we don't own any land out there beyond what we have, just a little for the station. I think that's on a right of way. We examined that 20 different ways. I asked, let's have an isolated system out there. Let's figure it out. Can't do it. Spent 2 years working on it.
Hmm.
All right, so under extraordinary expenses, there was no change there. The 2025 projected, of course, moved a little bit. Now under the long-term debt, Commissioner Yuri, this is where you're going to see it. We had 48 million in there being issued in 2028, beginning in 2028. That's now bumped up to 50. So it hasn't affected current year rates, but it will affect the bond issue in the future.
Ah. Okay.
So reserves, this hasn't really changed since our draft presentation. We're slightly edging up our reserves, but because the interest, or excuse me, our rates are so high, we're really hesitant to go much beyond what we have here. Our debt service coverage, this is something I alluded to and we've presented before, but it's definitely a bit more of a focus in our 2025 bonds. Well, our financial policy, we have in there that we're trying to target a 1.5 debt service coverage. And when we issued and we talked to Moody's in our 2025 bond issue, they recommended we move that to 2. It does take a little bit, especially with such a big bond issue that we had earlier this year, that it's going to take us to 2027 till we hit that 2 figure. And then when we issue another big chunk of bonds in 28, that's going to drop us again. But we will be using that 2 debt service coverage going out as our target. Industrial rates, these have not changed since our draft presentation. Last year, we had forecasted about a 21% for industrial water, and right now we're coming in right about 20. So not too bad. Grandview, this hasn't changed. Last year, we forecasted about a 12%, so we're a bit under that, but it's still a big increase. And then electric rates, this moved up just a touch from our draft presentation, but also keep in mind that 5% is a combination of what we charge Phillips 66 and then also our raw water system. We split those costs based on a whole allocation, but we do charge the industrial water a piece of our overhead in their electric utility. And then just a reminder too, the revenues that we received on the electric system down at the bottom, the power transmission and taxes, that's a straight pass through. So though it counts as revenue, it's not how we fund our utility. It's that general services charge that we tack on, which is what we calculate during the budget season.
So 5% on our general services is much less than 5% on the entire amount.
Right. It's a 5% increase. And the electric actually is only going to be looking at about, or the Phillips 66 is only going to be looking about a 2. And then just some forecast pretty graphs. The 2 things I wanted to point out here is you can see in the larger graph at the top, the big spikes, and that's where those bonds are being issued. You can see the cash. That sky blue color is what our total cash is projected to be. So you can see the big spikes there. The other one is down in the electric. You can kind of see it, but not clearly in the combined. But if you look at the lower right, the electric revenue, you can see in 2026, there's a bump and then it falls back down. That's due to the broadband. The broadband, we still have the possibility of spending about $3 million. That's all grant funded, but I needed, because we don't have a broadband utility that's getting operating revenues, I needed to put it somewhere and it's put under the electric, but it's a pass through, it's a wash. So it will affect costs and it will affect revenue, but in a wash. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
All right. And so to complete our budget process, the first meeting in December, I will have the resolutions That will pass the budget and the rates for 2026. And that is the end of my presentation.
Any
Any
questions,
questions?
comments from the commissions? Of course, we did it in process, but any,
Not for me, it looks great.
so you'll want a commission approval in the December 9th meeting, right? Annette?
Yes.
Now, we need that on that meeting because that gives us time to get the billing right for January.
Yeah. So, I mean, you've done a great job again this year, Annette, getting us materials to review and, you know, soliciting feedback and input from as is necessary, but also helpful. So thank you for all the work you've put in. How are you feeling about the process?
Oh, I'm glad it's almost over. But yeah, I mean, for the information we have now, I think it's a good reflection of what we're looking at for next year.
And the big thing in this budget is the $4.5 million line extension.
Well, I would say that's the biggest change, but our biggest thing is the Plant One rebuild. That's the big
oh,
dollars.
of course, yeah,
Right.
yeah. The thing is that the Plant One rebuild, we got lots of kind of operations, design, engineering discussions. And we haven't gotten that on the four.
Can we please just have a discussion on break, you and
Yeah, on the 4.5,
I?
okay, yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, Commission.
Thank you, Annette.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, great work, Annette. Thank you. I guess leaving aside that number and just to clarify it, so if we be bonding for that later, it's not otherwise like.
Not exactly, it's a shell game, so that, don't even put it that. We've got-
Wait, Lisa, where were you?
We've got water bonds, revenue bonds.
Yeah.
That we've already secured that can be used.
Can be
because
used.
You allocate the electric line to the water line.
Right.
So you can use the water bonds for that, but that eats up the bonds that we're gonna need later for that piece of station of Plant One. So when we issue new bonds for Plant One, we'll have to issue a little bit more. And then that's how it gets covered.
Okay, so it'll be at the
2028.
the next step, that future phase bond sale, we'd be making up for it and recognizing, right, that this will have an impact on rates.
Yes.
In what, three budget cycles from now?
Mhm.
Okay, yeah, but that doesn't preclude us from acting in the window we need to now. I guess for me, I big thing that stands out, right, is that we are raising rates significantly. I know this wasn't a surprise to our customers.
No, in fact, it was a little bit less than what we told them last year. Which is, that's part of the reason why we didn't get a lot of feedback. We told them it was gonna be about 21% on the electric side, the water side, and it was 19.9, yeah.
Yeah,
They were actually pleased by that.
Mhm.
We've worked hard to try and get it down.
We saved them 1.1% budget.
and that's the key thing is to, in keeping with, I think all of our like underlying commitment to wanna provide the most reasonable, affordable and fair rate that we can. We know that you all did the most to do that. Recognizing that, it's the second, last year. Rate increase furthermore this year, this is what it's gonna take to build a new treatment plant and all the other things we need to do. And so I'm relieved that we weren't hearing, we haven't heard objections or complaints about it and that folks understand that this is what it costs. So, yeah, that was oh, right, we still have to do a public hearing, right?
We
Yeah, I
do,
forgot,
yes.
yeah, we have to do a public hearing, yeah, so let's wait to hear from folks. Refrain. Yeah.
Yes, okay, so let's move on. Let's close the budget presentation. And let's move on to the public hearing. I'll go ahead and open the public hearing. And take input from the public on our PUD budget. Any comments or questions, please raise your hand if you're online and come speak up if you're in the room. I see no.
I think it's just PSE
Yeah.
online as
Yeah.
one of our customers.
Yeah, for their power plants.
Mhm.
Right.
Okay, then I'll close the public hearing. And of course, we have one meeting, well, next meeting for the actual final budget approval too. Is there any further comments on this, on the subject of the budget?
Not for me. If I have questions between now and the next meeting, I suppose I can address them to Annette.
Or Chris, yeah.
Yeah, either one of us.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, granted, this is our final budget and, it would be. It's presumed that we're making no changes, between now and the final approval December 9th.
Yeah, I don't anticipate any. Yeah, no guarantees, but the last 3 years, there have been no changes between these two.
Right, okay, yeah, and if we did, for some reason, something came to light and we wanted to propose that on the 9th,
We bring it forward.
okay, yeah. And then granted, we still have one more. We have that one additional meeting in the year after that, right,
Yeah,
Which is essentially gonna be a checks and vouchers meeting.
right,
And then, but remember, if we need to revise the budget, amend the budget in the future, we can do that.
we can always amend, yeah. I have no plans to bring forth the change, I was just, I just wanted to just clarify and understand, you know, and if we, in the next 2 weeks, what's the.
yeah, no, I've got no, also expect, things that I'm quote unquote working on that, to request any changes to the budget either, just to be clear. So, but if anything comes up, we'll follow up with Chris and Annette. So, let's move on to the agenda. We have our, commissioner reports, so. I think we list you first, Commissioner Arnett.
I had like one really busy week for the PUD, so it was Wapuda, which was great. There was some good information, the commissioner, like training roundtables on how to lobby their legislators. I always appreciate their opinions on that. And education, I had the Salmon Summit. I was able to go to the evening portion of the Salmon Summit, which was great, and a lot of effort by some of our staff members to get the Salmon Summit off the ground. And I hear the earlier part of the day was super well attended, less people there in the evening, but really good presentations on recovery and some of the log jams that have been built. And if you get a chance to have a tour of the conservation district, I encourage you to take that, because there's a lot of work being done. I also attended a WIRA 1 meeting. We had a meeting, it was great. Lots of conversations about adjudication. So Ecology was there talking about adjudication and talking about trusts, water trusts, which was kind of a timely conversation for me because I was just talking to Senator Shoemake about water trusts and how they can work here in Whatcom County. And there was an awkward conversation that was happening in the chat because our county executive in sort of reference to trust was like, well, the PUD has, lots of water that they're not using, which is not a good thing to say about a water rights holder during adjudication. I told him that the courts would decide how much water the PUD needs and how much we need to use in the future anyway. And he pushed back and I pushed back. What he was really trying to get to, I think, was how adjudication takes into account like inchoate water, right? But he was using us as an example, and that shouldn't have happened. And just to, double, triple down, like, we need to start working on solutions. I think our county executive really wants solutions, and that's why he kept asking questions and, using us as an example, and he's looking for solutions, but he's really just irritating people. He's just making people angry, which is unfortunate. And, cause we need some leadership to step forward and start working on solutions. And I don't know who that's gonna be. I would love for that to be this commission. I would love for that to be the PUD or, somebody to, we have, I feel like in the room, a lot more, knowledge of what's happening with adjudication. John?
Well, I was gonna say, when someone like county executive makes those kind of statements regarding the PUD, one of the appropriate responses would be, we are very able and willing to and want to participate and even lead a solution. However, we need to resolve the state ecology legislature needs to resolve the out of basin transfer rules limitations. One of our limitations on our water right is if to the extent we want to change place of use, and we think we have a county-wide place of use, but a lot of solutions are limited by out of basin transfer rules. And that has always been a battle that has occurred with ecology. So I would say that, yes, we want to be leading and participating in all the solutions for wet water in Whatcom County. And there are a lot of legal limitations that have to be solved through the legislature and ecology first, such as out of basin transfer rules and municipal water law.
Did ecology give any examples of how, trust water, rights are out? Did they give it any example of how, trust water right would be beneficial in this adjudication, given the current rules?
I don't think they were looking for a nexus with the adjudication. They were just there to talk about water trusts, water banks, and water exchanges. And Bill Clark was also there, and he kind of gave the view of the non government employee, and they were pretty consistent. There was no like real daylight between them. And so it was really more about how you set these things up and what benefits there are. And they gave 30 examples,
Oh, yeah.
and all around the
Statewide.
state.
Statewide.
All around the
So let me just get
Whole bunch
into
of Skagit.
So in previous conversations in this commission, I've suggested that we ask the state legislature to modify their water banking pilot study funding to include Whatcom County because we're currently excluded. So John knows about this, and I think you do too, is we've talked about it. So a good pushback for ecology would be like, can you have some agency requests modification to existing legislation that would allow Whatcom County to be able to apply for that study funding on water banking pilots. So if this commission is supportive of that, I think we should make a formal ask for that. I brought that up in previous years too, but maybe now is the right time to do that.
Could you state that again? I'm not clear on what we'd be asking.
There is statewide funding that's severely underutilized, by the way, also, for helping counties with investigating water banking pilots. For whatever reason, I don't remember that I was explained to me many years ago by Tom Mortimer, and I don't remember his explanation.
Well, they were picking on, so any place where they already had the adjudication essentially in the queue, you couldn't do the water banking because it was, the rights were gonna be determined.
Yeah, but a water banking pilot's a little different than. So what I'm trying to get at, if the ecology and maybe.
No, it's not different. If you're gonna bank rights, you have to have rights you can depend on. And if the rights have not been adjudicated, they are not dependable. And that is the problem.
So then why was ecology bringing up?
So they were focusing on trust, because trust is a little different than a water bank,
But
right?
it's,
A
you need it,
trust-
you need trust water rights to be able to do water. bank.
But trusts you hand over to ecology, you say, okay, you guys,
It's a lower bar to prove.
yeah.
It is a lower bar.
You hold this water,
Yeah,
ecology, for
even if it's an
me.
invalid
Yeah.
right. And
Yeah.
basically it preserves it in stream. So the issue with the bank though, is they're not gonna do that unless if you are in line to adjudicate, they're not gonna do that because they would essentially have to adjudicate to determine whether the rights that were in the bank. are
Right, so
legitimate
a
and
trust
everything
is easier, but a trust still can help with our wet water solutions,
It
right?
can.
But I kind of think that what what the county executive was trying to get at was like, can you bank your inchoate water, you
Right.
know?
else.
And
And Bill Clark addressed that directly.
yes, yeah,
What was his statement?
I'm not an attorney, so I'm hesitant to try and echo what he said, but basically there's some rulings that need to be done on the inchoate water and that it could, in theory, be put in trust, but the reality is, why would you do that? Because if it's inchoate, it's already remaining in stream.
yes.
Yeah. And municipal
Exactly,
water.
exactly. And yeah, exactly, Commissioner. It's the municipal water law question. It's it's already in the stream, providing the environmental benefit. And the other limitation would be is that until you have your right adjudicated, you don't know what your real available inchoate water right might be and versus what your contractual commitments might be. And so there's a delta there that we don't know what we would put into trust formally, but it's functionally right now because it is inchoate and we need to get clarity on the municipal water law.
Right, so we kind of essentially as a municipal water purveyor, the PUD already has it kind of in trust. The thing what we need to do is remove barriers for us to put it to other beneficial uses. It really begs the question, and I would argue trusts also just beg the question too. I mean, like handing the ball to ecology doesn't mean it's solved or addressed either. It's not like they are proactive in transferring water to meet community needs. So anyway, thank you for
But
that
it does
conversation.
help with conservation, water conservation, because one of the issues that we have with water conservation is that it's like that use it or lose it sort of clause, right? If you're not using your water right, then you have to give up that water right. So it allows you to maintain your water right while conserving water. That's how it helps wet water solutions. God, don't make me nerd out on water. Let's just move on.
Isn't that what we're here for?
And banks are typically used to mitigate new uses, not
Right.
mitigate the existing uses.
So just one thing I'd like to observe. The whole reason that the water bank, water trust, water exchange issue came up with Wyra One was because about a year ago, I was pushing it hard. And it was as one of the possible wet water solutions, along with in-stream and stream adjacent storage. And the county is pursuing that. We're doing it one step at a time. Our mechanism that we've got to do that in this county is the Wyra One board. And that's where we have been pushing, and before me, Steve was pushing, and you know, it's not like there's a lack of leadership there, it's the process itself is glacial. And I'm really hoping that the adjudication will speed that up enormously.
I kind of don't feel like Wyra One is going to be the group that comes up with solution, that sort of leads the charge with solutions.
It may be the same group, but operating separately from Wyra One inside the adjudication.
Yes, yeah, I
Then
think you're
it may be
right,
the same
yeah,
group of people, because
Uh-huh.
we got a lot of the interests are lined up.
right.
Yeah, it has to be.
Well, the
and I
same
think we got-
people, yes,
and we
but
gotta
it
include
has to
ag.
be.
We gotta include ag,
Yeah.
because they're the other big user that doesn't have a seat at the table at Wyra One.
Well, and when we
Right.
talk about trust, I mean, who's got the potential for significant water conservation and they can put it into trust, it's the ag committee.
Right.
And I've sat in on conversations not that long ago where there were specific, process improvements with water use efficiency that were not being pursued because
Because of users.
users,
You-
yeah,
Yeah, relinquishment issues.
so.
Okay, that
I'm sorry.
concludes my commissioner report. Next.
Well, and I think that, I wanna thank you for spending the time on that, and the reason is because, you know, the two of us are down in Olympia, and couldn't figure out how to do two things at one time. And this is really important content. And Lisa was nice enough to point out a nice article that Jim Davenport put in the Salish Current, which is a good summary of the event. I also had a follow-up, conversation with Jim on his, perceptions of the event. And he enjoyed it very much, was very thankful of the PUD's role in helping to sponsor it, a conversation that happened. And he also noticed how interesting it was that we're, despite the fact that there's an adjudication going on, we continue to work on solutions, albeit, you know, water quantity discussions are politely avoided, to a significant. But the point is, we're still getting stuff done, on in-stream solutions, so that's something that for our community to be proud of. So. Commissioner Yuri, your report?
Well, I wish I could have attended the Salmon Summit. I'm glad that you did, and thanks for,
And our staff did too.
and our staff, yeah.
Yeah, Rebecca and Lisa and Chris, I think, had major roles in getting that salmon summit. Oh, Rebecca, definitely, yeah.
And Lisa she worked hard on getting the final organization and I was cheerleader.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, so important, and, yeah, thankful, appreciate everyone for, representing us, having a presence there. Yeah, it was, can't be everywhere at once, and I was so, WAPUDA meetings last week. I think, I noticed you, Jamie, you did, manage to you dialed in for the Government Affairs Committee.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, you know, noting you were there, I think I withheld from commenting during that meeting, while you were there.
You are free to comment during those meetings.
Yeah.
If they take a vote. So, and I would have addressed that sooner if
Okay.
so if they take a vote, then the actual representative of the committee is required to cast the vote if they're present.
Okay,
But for sure, weigh in on everything.
okay,
Yeah.
I guess I had the sense that like only one of us could talk in the meeting or something.
There's a general sense of
Yeah,
deference that we should show towards each other.
sorry.
Meaning, like, if you know that Jamie feels strongly one way on a particular subject in the government.
Don't
affair-
poke the Jamie.
No,
Yeah, well, I
or
mean, granted,
any of us.
the
Like, we shouldn't go against our colleagues, in the
Yeah.
committee meeting in a passionate way, and have our battle out there in the committee meeting.
Well, no, and I mean, and who's the appointed, delegate is the delegate,
Yeah,
unless they're the.
But please always voice your opinions even if I'm there, you know.
Well, noting we already talked about some key things from that, the legislative agenda there, if there was something else that was worth bringing up. I did make comments during the Energy Committee. So, and I think that's, yeah, I'll just talk about that. So, a couple of things, which, felt like, granted, we hadn't voted like as a committee taking official positions on some of these items. So I just, acted within what I understood to be my leeway there. I did motion to approve, sort of a agreed on strategy put forward by the legislative team at WAPUDA for engaging in the transmission bill. It was a unanimous consensus item from WAPUDA, and at that point, it seemed like I felt like that was the right thing to do, and to signal that we were, you know, that we were good with it.
Right.
And we're an important PUD as it relates because of who represents us.
Because of who represents us, right, yeah, and and it's, so I, you know, but it was essentially, it was that they would be, being clear about the concerns that, you know, so many of the PUDs have about, the creation of a transmission authority and what it's, and what, you know, various issues with that. So not shying back from that, but, focus on, lobbying for some amendments and, you know, some light reforms around and transmission reform. And it's without going through the whole thing. I mean, it's all there, and you know, can refer back to it. But that was what they put forward, and I thought it was a tactful compromise and one which would, yeah, I just felt
Good about it.
good about it.
I want to speak to that. I'm also feel good about what was done there. I was listening in. I'm glad you were there and present. I was on my trip back home to that meeting. I want to say that I'm not completely close to the idea of state involvement. There's a couple things though for me is that we haven't figured out how the state's involvement can make things better by having a transmission authority. But, you know, we have a short session this year. The Energy Summit for me really made clear that as far as Washington State is concerned, we don't have all our ducks in order in terms of identifying all the transmission related actions. Because it's really been historically for PUDs, a technocratic undertaking, which each PUD or organization, let's put it there, team of PUDs that are affected by a transmission line, just advance things that make sense. And there's a general understanding that they're not going to propose, it's so hard to build transmission, they're not going to propose dumb ideas. What is happening because of the challenges with building transmission, many people, including people at Laputa, see the need for more strategic thinking on building transmission. But what we need to realize is that's a different way of going at the problem. That's more of a top-down way of going about the problem rather than a bottom-up. And so where I'm going with this is that it probably is necessary for us to take more of a top-down approach in building transmission infrastructure, but how we do that needs to be carefully thought through. And one proposal is a transmission authority, but it's a little bit, that's a little bit half-baked as an idea. In my opinion, there was one other thing I was shocked by, is that there was a east side of Washington State, and I'm not gonna name the individual because I don't remember, commissioner who spoke up quite passionately for the potential benefits of a transmission authority. I was surprised to hear that from a commissioner who I really would not have expected to hear that from. And that was interesting, and that opened my eyes a little bit. And I just wanted to say is that we're all figuring this out, how to work better together to address a crucial problem. I'll talk when you're done now with your report about the Energy Summit too.
Oh, yeah, I wanted to touch on that too.
You want me to go first then on the Energy Summit, or do you want to go first?
We could go back and forth.
Okay.
I had some other things I was gonna mention, but we
Yeah.
could go back.
So I just want to mention
Yeah.
that the big thing at the Energy Summit was the crux of the problem is about 2 gigawatts next year of potential supply shortages to eliminate the loss of load probability, and 9 gigawatts by 2030 of capacity to eliminate loss of load probability. And what that means is that it doesn't mean that we're not gonna have power. We're gonna have to curtail 2 gigawatts of continuous use all through the year in 2026. What it means is that we need 2 gigawatts to eliminate the possibility of there being any kind of service interruption at all by next year. And we would need 9 gigawatts of that kind of, to eliminate it in 2030. And, the majority, what I learned from the analysis that was presented by, led by E3, and by the way, Western Washington University also did a, presentation on exactly the same subject last week. I don't know if you guys, and there's a recording of that too. So we've got now and they recorded the Energy Summit too. Why I'm saying this is that in general, these things have not been recorded. So for people who want to understand, our blues of the, power community, there's 2 really good resources there to, watch, presentations in our community, and beyond, on the problem with power supply.
So I think there's a reason why this has been handled as kind of a technocratic activity. And that's because it is in fact so technical. And
Right.
the event that you're looking at in specific is Martin Luther King Day 2024 event. And 2 gigawatts, given next year's configuration, would eliminate a need to shed load under that event. It does not guarantee that you won't shed load at any time. And if you get 9 more gigawatts of dispatchable power loaded up on the system by 2030, it does not guarantee that you won't have to shed load in 2030. It just, under a particular set of events, you eliminate about 90% of the probability of load shed. And that's important, because the utility industry is never gonna say, hey, we're gonna build out this transmission and generation system and you'll never have an outage.
No, that's, yeah, you can't say
We
that.
are not going to say that.
Yeah.
And that's why it is, and pardon me, Peter, whenever lawyers are involved, you can always tell. For instance, it's a marketing issue, partial zero emissions vehicles. No engineer was involved with that. Part of zero is zero. Many times zero is zero. Zero is zero. That's all there is. So, it's a deal that we can reduce the probability of future outages significantly by doing certain things. We can't eliminate it. So the word choice there is really careful. It is a technocratic issue, and there's a point where I'll stand back and go, there's transmission engineers that do this for a living. They're really, really good at it. And we need to get it to a point where we hand it over to them and say, given these bounds, what do you recommend? And we've got to be able to execute on what the recommendations are.
Move to strike the comment about lawyers from the record.
I'll second.
Yes. Well, it was the energy symposium, super interesting, really highlighted, I mean, just and I think for a lot of folks in the room, really helped make clear the enormity of the challenges with and how much the growth in forecasts of demand growth and has just ballooned in the from this year compared to just 3 years ago. The amount that we have to bring on in the next 5 years or so, and then looking back at that MLK Day 24 scenario, where a few things went wrong and capacity was strained, and it was certainly a lot to learn from. But I think it was interesting the presentation from the folks who are working on the ninth power plan, and American Gas Association, I think it was PPC was there, and and you brought this up before, but in that scenario, the gas transmission capacity is fully maxed out, right? So with the cold snap, the growth in direct use demand, and then demand for the power plants like PSC operates, 4 of them here in Whatcom County. There's only you can't get any more gas into the system, right?
That's a really good point that came up, was the
Right.
importance of gas and for gas bottlenecks too.
And I think, Commissioner, the point you're making is that people look at that and they say, well, if you have a dispatchable gas resource, a peaker plant, well, you can fix this. But the problem is that there's nothing to fuel it with.
Right,
So, you know, we're kind of at loggerheads. We're gonna have to build more pipe capacity if we wanna have more.
Or gas
dispatchable
storage.
Natural gas, or more gas storage, but those are very long-term, even
Mhm.
longer term than pipelines.
well, and in our situation, Canada would have to build more capacity.
Oh, I mean, yeah.
It's on both,
upstream,
it's on both,
absolutely.
it's on both, it's on, capacity on both sides of the border, but we are 100% dependent on Canada. In this part of the state. And it's, I mean, to me, it just illustrated that it was not, certainly there, it's not a cost-effective or time feasible solution to solve our, the challenges we're having with meeting peak demand and winter peaks is not, it cannot be solved by increasing the amount of gas generated in the system. Either one way or the other, you need more power transmission. Like folks can talk about expanding gas transmission capacity, but that's expensive and not quick. And it's, I don't know, it was, I don't know, it was.
I think we need a geothermal plant on the west side.
I mean, I think it's all of the above, right?
Well, I think it was also noted in, I think it was the E3 study presentation, they had a nice bullet point list of like, well, here's our recommendations for, all the, feasible measures we can pursue in the next 5 years. And we need, a lot of grid hardening, we need energy storage, conservation efficiency and demand response programs, a lot we can do to shape peaks in the meantime, but also, obviously need to be pursuing transmission. So,
Can I say something about gas? I never have anything to weigh in on, I feel like for energy, but since we were talking about gas, so, there was like a pipeline issue recently. And the Pipeline Safety Trust made a comment about that, and I think it's really interesting. So between 2005 and 2023, there was only one significant problem on this pipeline.
Yeah,
But since then,
gas.
there have been 4 gas
The
pipelines.
gas one.
So from 2005 to 2003, one problem. From 2003 to present, there have been 4 issues. And like that just, I mean, to me, I would think that would, like, if there's delayed maintenance, the pipeline is failing, do you know what I mean? Like, like it shows that there's some sort of issue, like, I don't know, just an interesting tidbit.
And when something goes wrong with a gas pipeline, it's not fixed within hours, it's fixed within days or even weeks sometimes. So, and when there's natural disasters and such that can affect us over 1,000 miles of transmission route north of here in the winter when we most need it. I guess what all leads me to think that it's just that, well, so much of there were several things that went wrong, but the key reason that we had that crisis, MLK weekend 2024 was because of our very strong dependence on the gas system. And when a gas pipeline goes down, then we're in short order. So it's, it's vulnerability, right?
It's the last line of defense.
Sure.
Because you had very cold temperatures, which is when we peak. You had still air and not a lot of sunlight, and this went on for several days, and then they lost the gas storage field. And so it was the
So many
gas
things
system-
went wrong.
Yeah, it is our last line of defense. I think that's kind of the bottom line from the MLK weekend.
And
it was
And it's it's strained.
It's strained. Anyway,
now that we all feel doomsday-ish.
I just think either way, it would seem, I think as far as where things are now, to comply with CETA, utilities are gonna have to keep these gas plants online for reliability, and in order to, shrink them down to be 20% or less of the resource supply, we need to grow other resources and other clean power production, and keep maximize the use of those plants And they play an important role and at peak demand for sure. And it doesn't change the fact that we need to build new generation like we're pursuing. So I talked about this a little bit in energy committee too, where there was a kind of an idea that was getting shopped around for the last few meetings to carve out some exemptions to see to compliance post 2030 in cases where I can't remember the wording they used, but basically in emergency situations, right? Where utilities wouldn't be penalized for going over the limit because it was necessary for grid reliability. The WPUDA, the committee, everyone came to consensus not to pursue that at this time. And I just made comments to the effect of that, supporting WPUDA and all utilities and being successful in meeting the challenges we're facing. And didn't support that approach. I think it was agreed on by, Clark PUD being the only one that actually owns a gas plant. And I think from the IOUs that they talked to, they weren't interested in pursuing that. And granted, we have 5 years, and if we get to 2030 or 2028 or getting closer to it, and it looks like something like that's necessary, we can cross that bridge then. But I did, make mention in the committee that, right, though we don't own gas plants, we keep the gas plants running. 2 of PSC's plants, including one of the state's largest. I think in the last year, PSC was just the 2 plants that we give the water to were producing over 2 terawatt hours of power in the last annual. It's
Because they're close to the Sumas interchange and they probably get the best pricing on gas too, I assume.
Well, and they're on the right side of the Cascades. They're here.
Yeah.
They're here on the right side of the excellent point, yeah.
Yeah, and I think with the CMAS plan and the one in Bellingham, I think it was something that was, last looked it up, I have to fact check, but it was something like 3.2 terawatt hours of power in a year. And we're actually one of the largest gas, I think Whatcom County is up there as to be one of the largest gas power producing counties. So we're, we do certainly have and all of the gas comes in through CMAS, through Whatcom County to get to the rest of Western Washington, right? So we certainly have a stake in all of this. And understand the importance of those of keeping that power online. And I think it was interesting because I think most people in the room didn't realize that, like they don't actually know what we do. And that, so it's
We'll send them a copy of it.
and folks, I think east of the mountains don't know as much about how much of that we have, like I think 20 plants west of the mountains, and 9 of them owned by PSC, right? I think Brian already stepped out, but so anyway, and granted that none of those are being planned to be closed, right? Those are all planned to stay open for another 20 years for reliability concerns. And shouldn't change the fact that yes, the next 5 years and beyond, we need to build a lot more new generation and storage and efficiency and demand response programs and all of that to shave peaks. But yeah, we need and transmission. So talked about all that. It was really wonderful. And I think you'd already taken off back home at that point. And I just would share that I got so many warm and positive responses from people at WPUDA and coming up to me in the reception afterward. And it was just really a lot of talking about the spirit of working together. And going into next year, I think we were talking about and with Liz, the director, and all that, about how we really got to get everyone together and come up with like a consensus strategy on this that we can take, get a lot of stakeholders, not just COUs, but everybody together and figure out what we need to do and get something, and then have our legislative delegates and others be pursuing an agenda that everybody can get behind. And
Well, for me, frankly, it's really, I'm very grateful to hear all of that because I got warm reception too when I first started showing up, actually even before I was sworn in, attending WPUDA meetings. And then Christine Grant got that, and you've gotten that too. And what's different now is the amount that we contribute to the process. And that just wasn't true so much historically. I mean, when I first showed up, the response was, "Oh, yeah, we know you guys never show up. So it's great to see you." And so it's just been wonderful to see us playing a constructive role in policy development at the state level and learning to bring stuff back home. So thanks for your role in that.
Yeah. Well, just wanted to share in that, yeah, and would love to, and would want to make space in our going into next year, you know, it'll not be, we'll have a short set legislative session, but there's interest to get, yeah, more in the next 12 months going into the 27 session to try to come up with some, yeah, broader policy response and consensus, you know, especially when once we have the, you know, the ninth power plant coming out in a year, right? And Chris, did you have more thoughts on the energy symposium, or I guess you weren't
I
there?
wasn't there.
Andrew was there, though. I was interested if you anything you wanted to.
I think you covered it well, yeah. I don't think, but it was great to be there in person, I agree.
Cool, yeah, glad you could make it too, and keep thinking, was there something that I had to bring up that I forgot to, but
I have one last item.
okay.
So I, my whole life I've been pushing the envelope. I pushed the envelope long before I became a PUD commissioner by going to battle with big oil, making renewable fuels, and have certainly pushed the envelope here at the PUD. And generally on matters that impact the community, but I'm here to push the envelope again. And as I've gotten many times the feedback on my expense reports, I'm going to try to push the envelope on that front as well. So you all know that I'm a bike commuter. This is a very personal request. And there are things that are different when you're a bike commuter. I have, since being a commissioner, gotten pushback or even negative responses from staff and commissioners over having to eat at commission meetings or in breaks, or, you know, meet my biological needs. I think as far as that goes, I try not to make my personal choices or a burden on anybody else. And I've pretty much, you know, figured out ways to work within the rules. But I'd like us to change the rules as it relates to when my situation when I travel. I live at the intersection of Laurel and Hannigan. And the distance from where I live to the Amtrak station, which I take quite often, or the airport or shuttle, which I also take quite often for business travel, is between 10 to 13 miles. And so that means that I may have been nourished and fed when I leave home. But when I get to the airport or to the train, I need to eat again. And since the time I've been a commissioner, staff have rejected my efforts to pay for food on the PUD's nickel when I get to the train or when I get to the bus, because they claim is that it's in Whatcom County. And that why should I need to buy food again before I haven't even left yet? But for me, a 10-mile ride is approximately a meal, or at least half a meal in terms of calorific intake. So I'd like to have the understanding when I submit expense reports that I'm allowed to get food on my travel trip when I'm on the train. What I do is I'll buy something on the train. And not have to pay that out of my own pocket. And if to put it in context, my expense traveling to Olympia, which is a round trip of about, what is it, 150, 300 miles, is it? Round trip 100, you know, on Amtrak is about $60 to $80 round trip. The average person driving and using the state allocated allowance is spending $180 for that same thing. There's so many ways that my lifestyle choices reduce my expense reports.
Yeah,
And I'm tired of getting penalized every time I wanna,
It's an audit issue, Commissioner.
I have a thought on that, but John has his hand up.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think a lot of this is driven by auditor interpretations of the rules. And you're trying to push logic into the auditor's decisions and actions, which don't always reconcile. But I think that what I would like to, and I hear you loudly, Commissioner, and what I would like to do is step back and maybe we look at a policy to address that, because it seems to be ridiculous to say, well, the auditor's ruling is food bought within your county isn't reimbursable. Oh, but the train crosses the Skagit County line, then it is. I mean, it's kind of like, come on. And your point of the cost is less. So let us try to come back with a policy that Peter can present it early in the new year, having worked through the auditor on some of these issues. It's not, I don't think it's driven by staff so much as auditor interpretation of some of these rules and trying to have compliance.
Auditors are really clear. They
But
don't allow
I
us to do
I
that.
have a suggestion. So I don't know why we have to break down breakfast, lunch and dinner.
I know, yeah.
So the Office of Financial Management in Washington State gives a
Thank
per
you so
diem
much.
rate of like $65 or what, and you get that regardless of where you spend it. And you don't have, you don't have to turn in receipt, like that is, and I don't know, and it's based off of where you're
So you
visiting,
do-
why we don't do
You do
that.
one or the other.
We need to do the one.
Then we need to switch.
Yes.
and I totally wanna do that. Because like especially Olympia is the #1 destination. I would love
I
to be
hear
able
Ned
to,
screaming out here.
I would love to be able to just buy groceries, cause they've got a kitchen there. I'm a really good cook.
That's what I have to do because I have celiac disease and
Right.
oftentimes
I'm a good cook.
Okay.
I can feed myself
Yeah,
better.
you take a look at it. So it looks like, it sounds like
We've
right
heard-
now you have a reimbursement policy, you don't have a per diem aspect to it. We can look at that and
Yeah.
any other option that might address what you're talking about and simplify things and be consistent with the auditor. Those are the
Yeah,
parameters.
the issue is if you're gonna collect actual expenses and reimburse them, there's a certain set of rules. What you just described does not comply with those rules. The auditors we'd be in all kinds of trouble. If we switch and go to pure per diem, which we can do, for whatever reasons, we've never done that. And when I worked in Seattle, and when I worked in Snohomish, both of those are on a per diem. They're not actual expenses. I never had to
It's
keep
easier.
receipts or anything. It was
Yeah.
very, very
I
simple.
hate that.
Well, I hear you, and let us work on that. That's the change that needs to happen. If we don't change our fundamental underlying system, if we reimburse actual expenses, then this is where we're stuck.
Okay.
If we throw that away completely and just go to reimbursing on basis of per diem, then it's a different answer.
But not until January.
So Commissioner, my point is, let us try to achieve that goal, but give us a month to do that and come back in early January.
Okay.
I do think just Commissioner for some clarifications that, and I would have to read the rules again, but I know that there could still be some things about what time of day you leave, whether you get a breakfast. what
Right.
time of day
Yeah,
you
there's a whole set of new
Whether you
rules
get
on that
advanced,
stuff,
because
yeah.
there's still.
No
gonna
matter
be
which way you do it,
rules.
you
It's
got
not
rules.
just every time you take a day, you get $65. It's gonna matter.
Like one of the comments I got
There are
back,
still some rules.
one comes to, you can't call it a snack. I'm like, okay, what does it matter what I call it? Like on my experience where it was like, it doesn't matter. I mean, I'm eating, I need to put food in my freaking body
You
so that I
can't
can
break
survive.
Snacks, that's the
That is an
problem.
auditor's rule.
Yeah,
So
that's the problem.
if you
I
have
know.
a per diem and you choose how you spend that, that's up to you, but the per diem still has to meet certain rules. So
Yeah.
Rules and paper trails. If you write snack at the top of your receipt, then.
forget it.
Yeah, you're done.
Okay, we can look at that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
All right, that was all I had.
Think we have a final public comment session?
Yeah, yeah.
And then we have an executive session. I
Yeah.
do know that at least one person needs to be gone about 11:30.
Okay,
So that's.
so we'll be quick. Okay, public comments. I don't think we have any public left.
they're done with us.
They're done with us.
Mhm.
Oh. All right. Let's close
So we have
the
a
public
separate link for the executive session. With the tools added item, my item was gonna be 5 minutes. The
Yeah,
performance fee,
same.
5 minutes. So let's say 10 minutes from when we start. It's, you wanna start, how do you wanna break? Do you wanna start in 3 minutes or 5 minutes?
I'm gonna start at 10 to 11.
10
Yeah,
to
just give-
11.
No, let me
Yeah.
just take a break, Chris, whatever we need to talk, we can talk about afterwards, after the meeting.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll take a 2-minute
Yeah,
break
let's
and.
do it. Mike
Well,
was
Mike
fast.
McCumbers raised his hand a minute.
yeah, I just need a couple minutes to switch over to the other link.
Okay,
Okay.
then we'll give you the till 10 till.
Shoot.
Sounds good. And then on the
Okay.
flip, and then also on the flip side, you guys need to let me know when you're ready to go back into adjourn so I can get you back on.
So Commissioner, Chair, I need you to say you were going to be leaving for executive session. We'll be starting at 10 till 11. It'll last an estimated 10 minutes. There will be potential action that's on the agenda coming out of the meeting. The executive session is for performance review of a general manager and for potential litigation. I know that was a lot, but you
I'll
can
say-
say everything Mr. Sitkin said.
Yeah, everything John said, yeah.
As stated.
You say.
Yeah.
You need-
We're about to go into executive session at 10 minutes to 11. We'll complete executive session at 11 estimated. We expect that we'll talk about 2 items, the potential litigation related to
We didn't
property
identify, property acquisition.
And the second item is a review of a general manager. And when we come out, we expect to take action on the property agreement. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner. So before you, we handed out this morning is the draft agreement with OxyCorp to acquire an expanded easement at the Northgate Park for our water facilities. It expands the area of the easement 50 feet on each side to allow us to have access to the building, possibly build some additional storage or pumping or different things that we may need to do in the future, but basically operate that facility. The access easement was described in the easement as abutting the existing water line. We said, we had a survey of where that was. So let's just survey the easement and the access road, because at one point it does divert from the existing dedicated easement. And so we're clarifying that easement. So these are 2 easement amendments. One has, again, expansion of the water facilities easement. The other one clarifies the location of the access to that water facilities easement. We have discussed this with OxyCorp's attorney. We've agreed at the price of $100,000 and the PUD pay for closing costs. I expressed, as I indicated before, the commission would not accept this if we didn't have the termination of the existing purchase and sale agreement and the return of the earnest money. And they've agreed to that. We have not finalized the documents, given that OxyCorp's president is out of town for Thanksgiving. But this is the discussion I've had with their attorney, and I'm pretty confident of that. So what I'm going to ask you to do, and I'll put it on the screen in a moment, is pass a motion to approve the expenditure of the $100,000 in payment of closing costs, to approve the easement amendments on the maps that we provided, and to terminate, condition on terminating the person sale agreement. And then secondly, to authorize the general manager to finalize the agreements that have been approved by your legal counsel. So unless you have questions, I'll try to share my screen and you can see the motion. And Joseph, I will send this to you when we're done. No questions, and I'll share the screen. Let's get it right. Where's my, okay, where is it? Did I delete it in the agenda package? Okay, I'm not seeing it. Give me a minute here, then find it again. I'll pull it up.
Cause it's a mouthful.
When I went out of the other meeting, I lost it. Okay, let's try again. Okay, can you see that motion?
Yes.
The motion is to, number 1, I'm just gonna read it. The motion is number 1, to authorize the expenditure of $100,000 plus closing costs for the acquisition of an expanded water facilities easement and clarified access easement at the Northgate Industrial Park, conditioned on the termination of OxyCorp PUD purchase agreement and refund of the earnest money deposited. And, thank you, John, authorize the general manager to approve the final easement document and related agreements as approved by PUD council.
So moved.
Is there a second? I'll second.
Oh, yeah.
There's a motion and the second.
Sorry,
Any
I was
further
just-
discussion?
I Missed the beat there, but I seconded, yeah, just to say good work, thank you, John, getting us a good deal here and we appreciate it, so I will support.
Great, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 One last thing, Commission, from my end, I've served the commission for 15+ years. This would have been my last in-person meeting except for my back, and it's been an honor and a privilege to work with the commission and a variety of commission and staff over the years, and I take it as a privilege, and thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, John.
You're not coming to our,
Your last?
you're not coming to our
This
December
is-
meetings?
I was not, my wife and I are out of town that day, and that was planned to be virtual. My thought is I might try to skip in sometime in January to say hello.
Well, there's an appreciation event. What day is that?
For John?
No,
The employee appreciation event is Friday, December 5th.
I will
you
be
make-
I will be away, but I will again try to stop by sometime and
so let's just
in
be clear,
January.
John, you're not getting off that easy.
Okay.
Lisa's, can you please schedule at some point that works for us and John with Chris's blessing, of course, I think I got Chris's blessing on this, yeah, okay. An appreciation event for John,
Oh, he would love that, yeah.
yeah. Yeah, and we'll give him, we're gonna give you we're gonna give you a resolution from the commission, it'll be
Yeah.
mostly nice. It'll be,
Mostly nice.
okay?
Well, that'd
We'll
be
make
great.
that happen and,
We'll have
yeah.
sometime in January.
yeah,
John, it's
okay.
been a real privilege to work with you, and I've appreciated it.
You too, Chris. All the commissioners and Chris and all the
I
staff.
just wish we could have drugged this OxyClean issue out for another year.
Yeah.
OxyCorp, sorry.
Oxy clean that.
OxyCorp.
Sorry.
Sorry.
another agreement.
Yeah.
Yeah, John, thank you so much for
Thank you.
all your time and generosity with comments and also helping to identify things that go beyond the boundaries of the PUD that beneficially impact the community. Thank you for everything you've done.
Well, representing commissions and councils, and I think I've told this to a lot of commissioners here, it's part skill, part art. There's always an art to maneuvering things politically and you cross over what's legal, what's political. And what I appreciate is I'm very confident you have the same skills with Peter Raffato going forward.
But I'm not Picasso like this guy.
All right.
Thank you, John.
Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Close this meeting.
Okay, well, with that, that's a great way to end our meeting. Appreciation of a long-term team member. I'll call the meeting to close.